Welcome back for another episode of OldMate Yarns episode. I don't even know what we're up to. Welcome back for yet another one. We have Dean Kyrwood, Kit Savage, lead actor, and Mason Vellios, composer, multi-instrumentalist, and the reflective head of a god. Look at this man. We are launching into a great conversation. There's laughs, there's cries, there's no cries. We don't cry. We have discussion about film. We launch straight into it. Enjoy.
Do it.
I actually enjoyed what it was. And the first show I did that for in a long time was Dave Chappelle. Because of the nature of his like jokes and all the sort of controversy around him. I'm assuming also just for the sake of a comedian trying to save their jokes. He got pouches for everybody's phone.
Oh, yes.
Remember I told you about this? And your phone was locked within the pouch. You could not access it. There was no use of phones. And you've got, 10,000 people in an arena walking around before the show, getting drinks, getting things. And the vibe was just so different. People are actually like, oh, is this the line for the chips? Yeah, man, yeah, sick. Isn't it weird that they locked up our phones? I know. We have to talk to each other now. But in a positive way. It actually was this beautiful experience. So yeah, I guess phones can be good. But that was an experience where it was like, without it, we could really be there and see the art form that was the comedy or the music. You know what I mean? One big hell rant about phones.
So did you say something to him in person, or did he see the podcast and he's like, oh fuck, they don't like me filming it?
Yeah, no. He might eventually one day see this podcast. I'm sorry, Richard. It just got annoying after a while. But hey,
Richard eventually became a dick, and now he's back to being a Richard.
Yeah, he's good. Like, he's a nice guy, and his wife's a lovely lass that would come along as well. And it was just like this. You know when people talk about things like in the workplace, and you can speak obviously to your boss, but when your workplace is a bunch of hammered drunk people.
Yes.
It's a lot easier to just go up to HR. So it's a lot harder, sorry. Well, HR is kind of the security guards, really. They're like our HR. And I
would prefer a HR department that is made of security guards.
Yeah, and I speak to them quite regularly, as I'm
that.
sure you would from time to time, Dean, if it ever an issue blows out or you look for them for assistance. And I've had a few issues lately where HR hasn't necessarily been complying, but it's only because of short instances where someone will get on stage hammered drunk and we're in the middle of performing, and you just, as a band with lights, and we can't do anything, and it's hard. And this was at Amps where it's like you don't want to encourage more people to jump on. But we're in the middle of the song, and it's kind of like, and this hammered girl just got on, and it was probably about a good 30 seconds before security did it. Some would say that at least she got off stage, but 30 seconds of just a crowd looking at a band play with a drunk person, it's just like, whereas at the Mustang bar where I play on Saturdays, it's kind of like some of the times the security guards will do it so quickly. It's like, hey, get that person out of it. Yeah. Because they are causing a nuisance in the workplace.
like the dickhead that gets up when you're having a set break and then suddenly you hear the drums getting played badly.
Yes. Yeah, they get on the instruments. Like that is...
Fucking no.
That is so bad. At my partner's sister's wedding, similar thing. We set up a laptop, but it was kind of like trying to keep it away from people. People just see it and go, oh, that's the music source. Turn around. I'm going to just unplug and put in my phone. Push. Sound through the PA. Me sitting there in the background.
Yeah.
You know, how am I supposed to relax when someone's just going to keep playing with it?
Another situation that happens sometimes I find is there'll be maybe a group of drunk older women, and one of them will think it's fine to come up to me, put her fucking hands up my shirt, something like sexually assault me.
Yeah, wow.
But you kind of almost have to laugh it off.
For the sake of the entertainment, I've experienced that with, I would put my shoe or my foot on the speaker, and a guy would sort of start to sort of play along with it. I would be cheeky with it, and I'm fine with it. But then eventually that kind of, and he's hammered, he's having a good time, and I did know the guy. But sometimes when he would get too hammered, he would introduce other people to the notion. He would just grab their hands and put it on my foot and be like,
Yeah.
look, and they're like,
no.
wait, no, I don't want to. Without
Yeah.
knowing any context, like I don't want to fucking intervene here with the musician, and I'm kind of like to him like, don't just grab random women's hands.
Yeah.
And some of them play along with it, and I'm kind of like, oh, cool, but I can also take my foot off the speaker. Like I have the ability to at least do so. But in a situation like yourself, or when we've had drunk people kind of just yell at you right in front of you, like you're not doing anything, you have to unfortunately take it a little bit.
Yeah, you do.
So that you're an entertainer in the situation. You kind of have to
That's crazy.
guarantee, silently be like, this is fucked.
Yeah.
But you just have to, and I'm sure that would happen as well if, like, I don't know, in a same similar situation, I guess in Mitch would be like a live camera situation where it is live, where like if you're a television dude and you were just out the front of some of these like shootouts or something.
There is no need for anyone
lately, and they're
to
just
be
like
touching me.
Yeah, no, not touching you, but I mean like because you've got a camera or something, it's like they want to be involved, or in the case of the person in front of us on stage, it's like they just feel like they can be involved. It's like you're crossing the line. Come on.
Something that happens like that with film, I've found is if you're filming somewhere that might even be away from a city, a couple of fucking redneck idiots will see that you're filming and they decide they've got to fucking do burnouts as they go past, or like beat the horn like during a take. You're like, why?
To be fair, they'd do that if the film setting wasn't there. It's just a group of people. It's just like, oh yeah, fucking let's go.
Pretty much.
Like, oh,
Actually,
yeah.
you're right. They don't need a camera for that.
It's like,
You're right.
are they thinking like, I'll do a fucking burnout, let's put the dude in the film?
Yeah.
That's fun.
That does.
In OldMate, I'd probably include it.
Yeah, you
Production
got-
value.
yeah,
That's
in
cars
that
and
way,
insurance
yeah,
I don't have
it's
to
good.
worry about. Fucking let's go.
Yeah. Any chance we can get for that elevated production value, we don't have to pay insurance for.
And then you need to film Kit and Nigel beating the shit out of him. Well,
Just the very next scene, and it just cuts
After
back to the story.
hours.
just write it in.
Just
Oh
right
my
in,
God.
just full on rage Mitch, like. "Urgh."
We'll get him in like some kind of wrist lock and make him sign a release form.
Non-disclosure. Release form. I
Love
like it. That is not bad.
I was just
I love
saying,
the idea of
Mason,
just, like-
Mitch has got kind of Johnny Depp vibes happening tonight,
He does.
doesn't he?
Oh, no.
Actually does. I was going to wear that T-shirt as well, Mitch, but not bad. I like it.
Thank you very
He does
much,
have
Dan.
Johnny Depp vibes. He's got the. We need some lines, Mitch. Can you say some lines from?
You need some lines. Johnny Depp has lines. If there's
does
one
have
thing
lines.
he's got,
Any
he has lines.
line ever that Johnny Depp has ever said.
No, you just need to date a
line
lunatic.
that he's- Hey,
Now you just need to date a lunatic.
Yeah. And it leads to a failure.
yeah, I don't. Johnny Depp's lines, bloody hell.
Yeah. What do we say to
I can't think of
3
any.
shillings and we forget the name? Welcome to Port Royal, Mr. Smith. That's from Pirates of the Caribbean. Come on!
Oh,
Just as
Nice.
he walks off the ship, as his leg goes onto the. Yeah.
yeah, it's interesting. There is no one Johnny Depp. Like
There is no
any
one
any
Johnny Depp,
line that you pick isn't indicative really of him.
No.
He's got so many different characters.
Very different to Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah.
The other end of the spectrum. Arnie only has one
Yeah.
character.
That's so true, actually. Like a. It's
And he
like
honestly doesn't mind repeating them to this day.
I love it.
I love Arnold, by the way.
He does.
I can tell.
You can tell.
You strike me as someone that would like Arnold.
Is it because they work out?
Because you work out with the 9mm bullets.
Two more! Ah!
2 more in the gym. I could totally picture that. Speaking of big man, where is OldMate? Literal OldMate.
Big John.
Don't know. Hit him up. See where he is. Sorry.
Lost. Maybe he.
We haven't had this
died.
dynamic yet.
Just like in the movie. Oh no, it gave stuff away. But then he comes back.
Spoilers.
That means he has to come back.
Has he not messaged you back?
Nope. Let's check.
Hope you're alright,
Apologize for
John.
eating to my.
Folks, this is how podcasts that aren't
No.
podcasts trying to be podcasts are made. people.
How about podcasts not trying to be podcasts? How about those? Because that's more like what this is.
Podcasts not trying to be podcasts?
Well, it's pretty much exactly the same thing, right?
Podcasts. What?
It's still not a podcast.
Still not a podcast.
No word from Big John.
I like how you've got a Rode microphone and I've got a Sennheiser. Where is it?
Sennheiser.
Sennheiser.
Very nice.
Yeah, very nice. No word from John? Well, that's all right. What's the word from the Reddit world?
I've actually been... my last week has been mission critical, not with the podcast world. I haven't even managed to cut the previous one yet. It has been head down, bum up, doing, unfortunately, serious film things, which I was saying the more podcasts we do, the more we haven't yet made OldMate.
Beer, 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 beer. We got big news, ladies and gentlemen. Breaking news. Mitch, take it away live for us, please. That's like my film breakdown of the big news. It's breaking news. Go. Ooh, skip
I can't talk about any of it.
Oh!
You
Sorry,
can't?
ladies and gentlemen.
No.
Have to find
The
out.
things that have happened in this past week, the conversations that I've had, they're getting serious. And I can't
Can
talk
I
about
ask
them.
vague questions that get vague answers then?
Maybe.
All right. Things like thumbs up, thumbs down.
Of anything in particular? Or
on this,
Okay, wait. Okay. The feeling of the conversations.
Oh, no, very good. No, excellent.
Sort of like
Very thumbs up. Very
thumbs
thumbs up.
up.
Also, thumbs up and thumbs down aren't vague because it's literally yes or no. Like, that's pretty clear.
Yeah, but no, wait a second. You've got all this territory between...
I've got 180
You've
degrees of
also
vagueness
got-
to
you could
dial
go-
in.
You could wait. You've got another hand, so you can actually include 2 thumbs up if you want. You could have
There we
done
go. So
this,
we have
which is like in the middle.
360 degrees.
Yeah, but then you've got
but you don't
different
completely,
types
'cause
of
some of them
thumbs.
would actually
There's
mean the same
so
thing.
many parameters you haven't even looked into. Then we've got digital thumbs, not
Parameters,
your own
Milo.
thumb. So
Yeah.
My God.
You got Joaquin Phoenix in Gladiator where he sort of like teases it, like I don't know how much time you go.
Yeah, so you've got an automated thumb.
Oh,
Like,
now we're
you've got
teasing thumbs.
Movement thumb, right? And then you've got like AI thumb, which I'm assuming exists. And then you could just or
Well, the answer for regardless of which
give
thumbs
us
they
the
use.
thumbs up. No, we got to give us the specific. Oh yeah, all right. That's fucking confusing.
That's exactly what I thought.
Yeah, but did he include his other thumb? Why did his other thumb do this? And then,
Ignore the other thumb.
Nah,
I was going to do 2
there's-
thumbs.
That's sub themes.
We need
got-
the
I've got
thumb on the
subliminal
side of the
thumbing.
pen, signing off on
Yeah,
it.
Yeah,
Signing a
that's
check.
yeah. He did the thumb licking the contract.
Yeah.
Pulling up.
You guys do not want to know what these thumbs were doing this week.
Oh,
Well, I know because of our conversation.
wait! I
before
know what they
podcast
were.
started.
I know what they were. Scrolling. Yes, left, right, left.
Yeah, it was actually. I mean, literally, it was just a fuck ton of emailing. It was some amount of emailing and some amount of conversations, some amount of drinking, some amount of schmoozing, some amount of serious meeting and lunch meeting, so eating, and lots of coffee, lots and lots of coffee was consumed.
Is coffee
this week.
code for something else?
No, coffee's better. Coffee's better than something else. Coffee is a more sustained high for hours,
Less expensive.
As opposed to
significantly
cocaine.
cheaper.
For all you
Significantly cheaper. Coffee is my drug. Absolutely, hands down.
I've had 3 today.
Is that all?
I had 3 today.
I
as well. What did you
I
say?
started
All?
with 3.
Fuck. How many?
I
did you
started
have?
with 3 before 9 a.m.
Fuck, dude.
Does your mind just be
Let's
like?
go.
So you aren't
You know, the weird thing is it's sort of like that without it.
as intense as you think you are. It's just the coffee.
You'd be surprised. When I meditate and don't drink as much coffee and maybe just have green tea,
Creatine.
I'm like super chill. Yeah, because I still got a little bit of caffeine. But it's like super chill. But yeah, when I'm like up, let's go.
That's why the film's getting made, man, because you are like that.
That's why thumbs were put up this week. I mean,
There were a lot
Like,
of thumbs being put up this week.
I got one more generalized, no answer, real question.
Okay.
See, I didn't really have one to begin with. So I was just
That's
gonna.
cool,
I was
'cause I don't have
trying to
any
find
answers.
out a way of getting answers without getting answers. I guess
Okay.
my question is: will we be getting answers?
Yeah, so I don't know how specific I want to be. It was a very productive week in that we are making
Progress.
forward progress in a number of different avenues.
There we go, folks. Avenue
And-
progress. Good.
Avenue progress, but multiple avenue progress. So private equity would be one avenue where we are making progress.
Yum.
Industry support
Yeah. I like
Really?
this. Yeah. Cool.
would be another avenue of some degree of progress.
Really?
When we are looking back at how
A
this is the
development, support with development. There's avenue progress.
yeah, cool.
Then
Oh, I like it. No, this is good. No more.
lots of progress. That was only some of it. Oh, screening progress. There was progress with the screening.
Yes, it's
Sold
locked
2
in,
cases
right?
of beer, so
Oh.
progress.
Can the general public go to the screening?
I would like to keep it a cast and crew one because we have a private booking,
Oh,
but there will be a screen there,
Mitch,
and
can
it
we-
will be facing the rest of the tables. So if they happen to be at Rocks Brewing Co. on Wednesday, April the 19th at 8 p.m, then they might catch
a glimpse.
the OldMate concept short, and OldMate Pale Ales will be on tap all evening.
And you could meet us and shit.
And
Except me,
the-
I'm stuck in Perth.
cast and
Damn,
crew
you're not coming up.
apart from Mason.
Apart
be
from
there.
me, but you can get me on Only Yarns, late hours, after hours.
Yes.
Can you do one more of those and say only mates, and I'll use it
Yeah,
as
that's
the
what I was
intro?
doing. Yeah, no, because you can see me instead on Only Mates. It almost looks like devil horns. Yeah, so much satch. I was going to say, Mitch, you should cut it from me asking the question about progress, and you say we've sold 2 cases of beer,
Mm.
and then that's it. And all the stuff before, just axe and just cut those 2 together. No,
Am I really badly delayed when I do have my earpods in?
It was more delayed than it is that you seem in sync right now.
Yeah,
Whereas the other
damn.
ones
Because
are
I just can't hear you
slightly out.
guys as well.
Really?
It wasn't badly delayed if you check them back in.
Hello?
Hello.
Is that clean? Is this sound better than my normal microphone? Because I hope it does.
I think your
I like it.
setup is better than usual.
Yeah,
Mason.
this is my proper professional microphone versus this hodgepodge gaming set,
And we
which
can
allows me to
see you better as well.
I cleaned the screen and I put some extra lighting.
You look like Zod from Superman,
I can actually control the colors, but I don't have it. Superman. Oh yeah, that guy.
like
Terrible.
the
Zod's great.
1970s one, not these bullshit new ones.
Not really famous English actor, right? What's his name?
In those original ones.
He's a
Why
badass man.
aren't
That
we
actor. What's his name?
working?
Oh,
Richard
fucking-
Harris?
Why
No.
aren't
Is it
we
him?
working?
Because Richard Harris was in.
I think
Gladiator
Zod
12,
was
wasn't he? No, Orson Welles was in Gladiator,
Stamp.
wasn't he?
Pardon me. Awesome
What are
words.
you flashing
Marlon
for?
Brando was in the first one as his dad.
Oh no, not Superman. Gladiator,
Oh, and Gladiator. Orson Welles? What?
wasn't he?
You sure?
Oh no.
Mason's having a party over there.
That's not me.
There's no way he was in
laughing at me.
Gladiator.
No. It's
What do you...
Dude, this is what happens when the lights try to configure to the app, but they just start flashing like it's a fucking rave. Turn up.
Do we have any questions from?
I've literally not opened the Reddit app since
Dude,
the last
just
time
lie.
we
Should
had this
lie.
conversation.
Just,
All right, we have more Reddit questions,
dude, just lie.
but I can't say their names for obvious reasons.
Oh, yeah. All right. Is this too dark,
All
by the way? Can you see me?
It looks-
Mason's setup is looking rogue. You look cool as fuck, but you look like a Francis Bacon painting because it's the background's just. Oh my god!
I'll leave that. There you go. There we go.
Oh, there he is. All right, cool.
Spotlight on
We
there.
do. We have some Reddit questions.
Cool.
What's the name of the person that sent the question?
It's Jerry, isn't it? Jerry.
At Shut the Fuck Up Dean said, in regards to filming OldMate, what are you most excited about?
Do you want to go first, Mason?
Yeah, you take it first. Dude. Take it.
Well, selfishly, I'm most excited that it feels like a character that is able to showcase me like nothing has ever before.
Love it.
I'm playing a character that I feel like is a badass. He has emotional depth, and he's kind of funny. And I haven't had all of those combined. Not really.
Love that answer.
That's a great answer.
You are the
I'm
perfect
excited.
person to play him.
What's that, brother?
You are the perfect person to play him.
Thanks, man. I heard you the first time. I just want to hear it twice.
I know.
But no, seriously, thanks, man. It feels like it fits like a glove.
That was great.
Like a glove.
Like a glove.
That is
Oh.
Ace Ventura.
Ace Ventura.
Yes.
Number 2. I think he does it in both, but
He
definitely
does
number
it.
2.
I need to rewatch those. That is-
Like a glove.
Let's see that in instant replay. The best line from that movie is, "If I'm not back in 5 minutes, just wait longer."
Just wait longer.
It's so simple. I think my most favorite moment is there's a moment in post production. For most projects, I feel like post productions, at least for me, is like I start with experimenting, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I start with guessing, trying, attempting. All of the brackets of composing. A lot of it's just sort of throwing stuff at a canvas. When it starts to work and starts to vibe, it's great. But then it still takes a little bit more time to finesse it, to get it to where I feel it needs to be. And the beauty at the moment, I believe, like that Mitch and I have kind of done that. A lot of that first part of the process of splattering things on a canvas has already been done, and it kind of, we already have the trajectory. So what I'm excited about is, because I already know some of the sounds and the feels, and just kind of like, I guess you have too, exploring the character a little bit in the sort of, in the film sort of short we've already made. It's kind of like you're like excited now to really explore that more in depth, as you've sort of said, and then know already, because you've kind of already felt it almost in pre-production now, that we've already sort of shot a little bit of it and attempted some of these things. I'm just excited for that moment where it comes together. And obviously Mitch and I do this a lot in post when we're kind of doing different versions, and then, you know, eventually you get, you know, a pass of the music sort of sitting there, and then a pass of the ADR, or any ADR that's sort of loosely around, and then the set stuff is sort of mixed in, and the sound design's it's all just loosely sitting there, and nothing's really starting. You're still cutting and trimming it, and then it just sort of shows itself in this, all of the, like, all the stuff that, from everything from script writing, pre-production, the dialogue itself, how you've designed it, Mitch, really, from the get-go, all the way through to your performance, Dean, the lighting on set, the camera angles, everything that Jordan's going to do, and the rest of the crew. And then the rest of the people, you know, acting, as well as John and yourself, you know. And then everyone else's flair. And I don't necessarily put color grading into this, because I feel like my experience of color grading comes in because I usually I'm finished at that point, or I'm already kind of, my role's kind of wrapped up. It's like a beautiful way of me getting to see the film with like the polished icing on the cake in the cinema, with all its colors in its gorgeous tone. But in post-production, because we're so used to like dealing with a lot of things that are unfinished, and that's okay, because we know there's more to come. It's when a lot of it just starts to show itself, whether it's in the pacing of the edit, along with everything going, and it just comes together, and you're just like, and you know, and a lot of times I don't depending on the film or the people that you're on, they don't have as much either faith at that point, or it's still part of the exploration. Everyone's kind of still exploring. I guess we've done a lot of that exploring together, almost all of us in a way. And so we already know how it's going to feel. We already know what it's going to look like. And I'm just waiting for it to show itself.
Hey, I like that.
If that makes sense. Like, whereas,
I like
don't get me
that.
wrong, we always do that with the films we're on and the projects we're doing. But there is a lot of that dread. And usually that's happening as we're doing it. And it's, for me, that's in post. And it's such a minimal time and the crunch time. And, But to kind of be a part of this non-podcast podcast, I guess, evaluation of all of this from the beginning, I'm really excited now to be able to look ahead, considering we've done our little analysis, I've done our little experiment, and we still will be doing plenty more of that, but in the right direction, without the need for stress and concern. I guess it's more for like dabbling and strengthening and trialing even more and expanding and pushing things as you and I would do, Mitch, to like past the point, and then we rein it back in, push it a little bit too much and go, all right, we're probably not going to do that, but it was pretty funny. And then, then it comes down to the overarching thing. And I guess one part of me is kind of like, I love it in the process, but really that first sort of screening where it's not the first one, where I'm sure the first one to most people is always like shit, this needs work, especially rough cut, but when we're kind of so close to picture lock and we know that color grade's still there and we know there's still more polishing, but that feels great. It feels right. And I think I'm looking forward to that, especially with this, because of, like I said, because of what we've done beforehand, because I'm not, usually for a lot of stuff I get told it's about this, and then I don't see the actor's face, the actor, such as yourself, till the rough cut is handed to me. Till all of the, like, by the way, this is really rough,
It's like you're getting a sculpture that is already carved and made, and then you apply this blanket of finely woven detail to give it all this color and feeling and vibrance over it, Mason.
Yeah.
But I think in our case, we've already stitched that together. Yeah. And now we're just trying to throw it over the thing so it can take shape.
Absolutely. It is like, it's just so interesting, I guess, all parts of the process, really. And for me to be this far back in the process, really, which is just not that common of a thing, is just awesome. It just feels like I get to see what you're just saying, Mitch. I get to see you do that. And I get to see you do that too, Dean. And you're throwing out over the sculpture, or which is great.
It's crazy to me that in a film environment, which is fundamentally a visual and auditory role, like its purpose as an art form is through our eyes and our ears, and then our eyes connect to our brain and our ears connect to our heart. It's amazing to me how little regard sound is given in the hierarchy of a say in a film, given that it's like 50 to 70% of the experience. So I think it's sort of the secret sauce. Sorry, Dan, go on.
No, sorry, man. A great soundtrack and great sound scape elevates a project like beyond.
No award-winning film has a bad soundtrack.
Yeah,
that's true. It is. I think it is honestly so much fun for me to see without it, without the. It's like a weird lens, I guess. Not many people get to see.
And no one should see.
And no one should see. No, that's a very great response too, because it's part of our process and what we do, and it's just simply part of it. But that is, to me, is like looking at that sculpture and you've handed it, and it's kind of like, I'm looking forward. You've already paved the way for the detail. I'm just colouring it in and sort of adding that flavour, and yeah, that's a great way of looking at it. I'm actually really intrigued, Mitch, at what you're most excited for.
I'm most excited to see it in the movies when it is done. So I have I have every element of this in my mind to a T as a wireframe. Like, I know how we're going to approach every part of this thing, and I am so itching to do it that it's getting frustrating, and I would like to not be frustrated. So I would like to be finished doing this now. Like, I was ready to make this, Dean, like a year ago. Like, we essentially started making it. If we had the money at that point, there is not that much preparation I've done between then and now that I wouldn't have been able to do faster with money and have already made the movie by now. It has just been a slog of trying to find the resources to put it together, and we're finding them, and it's coming together. But it's so fucking slow that I cannot wait to make this movie. I want to be on set for the 14-hour days. I want to fucking make this movie. That's what I'm excited for. I'm excited to actually be making this film.
We will.
We will. Lessons for you folks out there. Time.
That said, dude, like, this is extremely quick.
Yeah, and it's the amount of coffee I'm drinking, my time dilation scale. This is not fast enough. We need to keep this shit fucking moving. I'm getting bored over here. We gotta move.
It's not quick from the seed of your first idea, obviously.
No. From the yeah, obviously. I mean, that was 2017. I didn't expect it. I put it aside. I was taking it slower then. I'm talking about, like, I've had the preparation necessary to undergo the beginning of this film. We have the people. We have, everything short of the money to point these people in the directions that they do what they do to an incredibly high level and say, go.
I think this is the test, though. I think this is the nature of that big first one that you see a lot of those first. Because after that, I feel like once the traction's there, or once it's sort of understood what it is that we do when we are put in our elements, people then go, whether that's a studio, whether that's a another investor, they kind of like, I see what you're doing, and I'm ready for your next idea, and then that spirals into, can you direct the next Star Wars movie? But, like, I guess it's just like the first one is, you look at all the stories of every person's first endeavor to that degree, and it comes with this testing time. It's testing. It's a big test, really. And in that, but some people do. Some people put it away. Some say that I'm just going to shelve it and work on other things and come back to it eventually. One day we can do it. Those stories of, like, people that say they don't have the technology to do it. Wasn't that the James Cameron one or something like that?
Yeah, but he had well and truly proven himself by that point.
Yeah, I know. At that point, he was like, I'm going to make a movie about water, but we can't do water, so I'm going to put that over there. Come back to that one. And it does.
You know who we should get on in regards to tenacity and making things happen? The Roach Turner boys.
Oh, yeah. That'd be great.
Roach Turner.
They are just persistent. They just kept slugging it out every week for
shot on weekends for 4 years, something like that.
4 years.
What did they do? What's
Wormwood. These are the Wormwood boys. You know Wormwood?
Is that a drink?
Indie Aussie zombies.
But with Australian humour, like, blasted through it.
A lot of fun.
So good.
Wormwood Apocalypse came out, last year, the year before?
Last year?
It was a fucking good time.
Yeah.
Dean is in it.
I'm a badass, surprisingly.
I wouldn't believe it. That's you're that good of an actor.
I took the liberty of deciding that he had narcissistic personality disorder.
Oh, I like it.
He was a psycho dealing with a psycho, basically. I kind of like that the most psychotic guy in the film is temporarily afraid of my character.
I love doing that with characters. I love when you can set up someone else by how another character reacts to them. Like, you set up a character and then how they react is a better indicator of who someone is than seeing it from themselves. Like, the best first impression you can give is through someone else.
Yeah.
To see this psychopathic character have fear because of my character was so satisfying.
Love it.
Go to hell.
And he was fantastic, by the way, Nick Borchier.
Oh, yeah, what a legend.
Yeah.
Bondi hipster boys.
Yeah. He's such a
I didn't realise the Bondi hipsters were with the Wormwood guys. That's awesome.
Yeah. So I would say, man, like, if anyone's feeling frustrated with getting a film up, would you say, Mitch, just do something every fucking day towards moving forward?
Yeah, like, unequivocally, yes.
Don't
Be
put it in
doing
a too hard basket, I'll do it later. Like, fuck that.
Yeah, but I would also say be smart about what you do decide to do.
Yeah.
I would say definitely do something every day, but do the right kind of things. And that's entirely dependent on where you are in the process. But, like, you know, I could have... I started changing the script when I was, like, I think I'm about 2/3 through the film, like, storyboarding every shot. Yeah. And so I just went, while the script isn't actually locked, and there are people who might want to have a say on it, even, you know, getting closer to shooting, like an executive comes in and offers a lot of money and wants to make some tweaks, and they have to be good ideas, or we sort of workshop it, and, you know, and it changes slightly, provided they're good ideas. I would then I would have wasted some work doing the storyboards. So I'm going to be selective and go, that's not the best use of my time right now. And so then, you know, there was that period over the last maybe month where something else has been taking longer than I thought. So I jumped to making an investment proposal document. So I can proactively be going out and getting executive producers as well, and more people with money, and presenting it in a more formal way. And people that are seeing this document have said no film that they've been a part of has ever really done anything like this. It's treating it as a financial proposal, like an asset class that you're investing in.
Yeah.
As shares, as the future of future of its assets. Like, we spoke very briefly about this before you came on, Mason. But the idea that when you're investing in a film, you're not investing in the one movie. You're investing in the future of its assets.
Absolutely.
You know, you're investing in, like, the people that put money into Reservoir Dogs, Tarantino's first film, probably saw a little bit of a return. The ones who invested in Pulp Fiction made a bit more of a return. But fundamentally, by the time he's got to where he is in his career, those two first films are doing astronomically better. You know, Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels. Right? Yeah. That movie, because of the future of Guy Ritchie and Jason Statham, has got a much higher revenue stream. You're sort of investing in the entire canon of work, really. You're investing in those people more than you are a film.
That's beautiful. That's a much better way of looking at it, I think, than just one thing. Because I feel like that's how other people look at it. It's kind of like they watch it and they go, that they just make their one assumption and they throw away the, like, plethora of things that come with it. That's why when you say something like, you know, the joke we made about, would someone, like, ask you to direct, like, a big film, like a Star Wars type film? Like, would you actually do it? And that, you know, it's like that, you know, there is none of that investment stuff. That is just a one-stop shop kind of thing.
Well, I mean, you're investing in the intellectual property there. So once you've, you know, like, you know, you can, it doesn't matter. I mean, in that instance, the directors aren't as important. The actors are. You're investing in the actors still, and you're also investing in, you know, because like a Star Wars movie with, you know, one of the earlier late ones, one of the newer ones, but further, you know, away. Like Rian Johnson directing fucking whichever one of them. I haven't seen it. Yes, he's done Knives Out, but that didn't make people go, oh yeah, I want to see Star Wars. You know, he directed it. It's more like they want to see that for the intellectual property, which is the story, which is the world of Star Wars. It's the character. So you can invest in either, I suppose, in IP and the breadth of like franchise, or in the people and the franchises, their career essentially.
In regards to what, sorry, Mason.
That's right. You go.
In regards to what you said about if people gave you a big chunk of money, you'd be willing to like let them have artistic input. I say, fuck that, man.
I initially went out saying fuck that. I'm aware that I don't have always the best ideas. I come to both of you for a lot of input. I think there's the right people for the right roles, and I am open-minded.
Yeah.
And I think people who are, I mean, it's when we're talking significant sums of money, generally they're not idiots. And I did kind of say in that little bit, I said, if they are good ideas. And I think it's worth hearing them. And especially if they are contributing significantly, they want to be involved. They want to feel involved. And I want them involved. If they're willing to give me that much money, it's like, all right, it's a collaboration of sorts. And I think hard lining and saying, no, we're not going to do anything, maybe later on in your career, some might take that approach. But I think especially this kind of movie, and I've got this in the investment proposal, there is an element of like everyone's fingerprints on it. And I think, again, provided it's curated and it's still in a positive direction, I think there's totally room for like, you know, I don't know, they kind of read the script and they go like, you know, I think this is good, but like, you know, this scene I feel like could be a little bit funnier, and they mention some line. I'm like, yeah, we'll try it out, you know, and then we do try it out. Maybe it works. Maybe it makes it in. Yeah, I don't know. They're gonna watch that and they're gonna tell their mates and be like, I did that bit, you know. Yeah. And I think that's great. They can put their signature in the pit with all the in the graffiti as well. Like I love. Yeah. I think it's everyone's movie, right? Yeah. Everyone is OldMate, and so I think particularly in this example, if I was making this fine art piece. Fuck no. Yeah. You know, everything is sacred. But this is a fun, you know.
And I don't think you would, when I think about it, I don't think you would allow somebody to like really take your vision off.
No, fuck no. Like, dude, I'd walk away from the money if they start fucking with me. Yeah. Like I do not give zero. If it matters, I am the most stubborn. You guys wouldn't believe this.
What if Dean was called Jason? Just something different.
Fuck off. Fuck off with your money. I'm not calling him Jason. Would be my answer to that. Okay, so for example, someone helps us out to fund some of the cars, which are fucking cool as fuck and are going to be sick in the movie. And then they go, yeah, but I've always wanted to see a shot in a film where it like does a particular thing. It's like, if you're paying for that shot, let's do that fucking shot. Let's do some big sweep and awesome shot that you've always wanted to see. You know, let's make it happen. If you're putting the money up for it, let's do it. Like. So I think to a point it's worth pursuing, but no, totally. You trust me that I'm not handing over like you can write this scene if you pay us this much money. Like fuck all that. Yeah.
I got a new name for this title of the movie. Fuck off, mate.
No, that was just one of the story consultants that I had was suggesting we change the name of the movie. What? I was like, and you're a story consultant.
Wow.
No.
I know. Get story doctors, but get more than one opinion.
Yeah. That's a good little hit.
Oh, I noticed you're wearing an OldMate shirt, Mitch.
I sure am.
Are they available for people to buy?
What is that?
They sure are.
Wow.
It's a pitch.
oldmatemovie.com.au.
Breaks into a commercial. Da-na.
Is there a link
I do like
for that somewhere?
There are links all over the screen.
Put the link on my forehead, like on this.
There is a link rising up from your forehead. There is
right
a
up
link
here, ladies and gentlemen. As
Dean's mustache. There is a link across the entire screen that is so big that you can't actually use it as a link.
Is there a way with t-shirts like that you can? I imagine not, but that you can like. It looks
That's the t-shirt, folks.
Is there any way you can number them? Like this is number 1, and like that's the most valuable one. Can you imagine like owning OldMate shirt number 10, and like when the film goes huge, you're like, fucking look at this.
Fucking look at that, Dean's signature in the number 1.
Isn't that pretty much what that whole thing is, where people buy stuff and you can the new currency, the new thing that people go on and
crypto.
No, crypto.
Right. NFT.
NFT, yeah. You're essentially talking about an NFT because you're placing a value on it by saying...
It becomes, non-fungible by there's only one of them.
It's like you're buying bragging rights.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Well, you're buying...
having the 10th t-shirt.
It becomes human, I think. There's a human element to it. Like, it's become part of the legacy of it. It's not a mass-produced thing. It's like... It was a snapshot in time. It was a moment. It was a, part of it, I guess. I'm not explaining that anywhere near quickly, but
it's almost it's like I'm one of the first people that like fucking Pearl Jam. That makes me cool.
True. Yeah.
I don't know why
Yeah,
I said
I guess
Pokemon,
this-
but you know what I mean? Like early
Yeah.
on, before they went big,
Well, it's like,
it
you
would
know,
have been
art
in mine,
lives.
you know what I mean? Like I believe.
Imagine if you got like imagine if you got Kurt Cobain's signature from one of his first shows.
Yeah.
Like that's valuable because of the entire legacy of what's happened to him. That if you just had an album, you know, by them that he didn't sign, it doesn't have. So I guess that's the difference for me, where non-fungible tokens aren't really the same as like, yes, it's limited, but it's not real. Whereas this is like
this link, you'll go to the legacy of the OldMate film. Basically, you're buying things in the.
You're there first.
You're there first, right now. Go.
Maybe people that buy merch, you could keep an order of who bought merch first, and put them in the credits, like the merch buyers in the credits.
Anyone that spends over $100 on the OldMate merch store,
Here we go,
I will keep your order number,
ladies and gentlemen.
and we will invite you. The first 10 people that spend over $100 will be invited to the premiere
Yeah,
of
that's
OldMate.
sick. That's sick. That's worth a clap.
Get on there.
And your name
Buy
will
some
be in the
merch.
credits
We'll all be there.
as a supporter.
To get into the credits, you need to do a little bit more than buy a t-shirt.
But
That's
you
it.
can just call them like supporters. Like it doesn't have to be like a producer.
In the credits, you have to be doing something.
The supporters, that's reserved real estate.
Okay.
There's standards.
Just opening clip. Have we got any more Reddit questions? Reddit questions.
Hey, let's see what you did.
We
there.
sure do. This
This question's from Mitch.
This one's from Reddit.
Oh,
This one does not have to do with the film. The question is, Mason, what the fuck are you doing?
Dude, I don't know what's going on with it. Anyways, silly Kmart lights. No, they're actually good. Continue.
So it came up. This one is unrelated to film altogether. What is your biggest pet peeve?
oh. The first one that comes to my mind is I'm living on the top of a hill with a really beautiful outlook over a very serene Lake Macquarie.
Yeah, how fucking irritating.
Oh no, that's not irritating, but I'm surrounded by retired men,
Oh,
and
that
almost
is irritating.
every single day, if I'm in a moment looking out over the lake,
Yeah, chainsaws, mowers, fucking cars.
lawn mowers, ride-on mowers, leaf blowers, fucking. I hate suburban noise. Shut the fuck up.
What's
There
that?
should
What's
be a
that?
Serenity o'clock at like 7
What's that
a.m.
brand of wireless, like outdoor shit? Like,
I feel like there needs to be one day a week that you're allowed to do that stuff.
yeah.
And everyone has to do it at a certain time. It can't be early in the morning. I'm
Is
a
it
fucking
Nikita?
musician, you
The ones
fuckhead.
with the batteries? Whoever invented the battery operated power tools has just killed it for everyone.
Someone invent a quiet mower, for fuck's sake. It's 2023.
Put a fucking solar panel on the top of the mower.
That's my
Easy real
main
estate.
pet peeve. I've been saying this for decades.
A lot of these electronic mowers actually, they're pretty almost silent, but people still choose to enjoy sound. It's a weird thing. It needs
very
to
annoying.
Sound good. You know, even a lot of cars, it's actually quite funny. A lot of electronic cars have to have sound introduced legally because they can be soft enough for people not to hear them. So for safety reasons, they have to go.
Yeah, see, Dean, all these people are in your surrounding yards. They don't want it for safety.
Yeah, but
Bloody
Dean's
safety, mate.
Dean's come out and going, look at the sun, and then it turns into a fucking panic with a fucking noises going everywhere. You know,
It's
It's
every day. Like some of them do it.
There's surely no need to be doing that much.
They mow every
Leaf blowing.
second or third day, like, and they all rotate. It's like what?
Well, I just have an endless stream of traffic out the front of my window, so I would actually love the idea of just serenity interrupted by intermittent mowing.
Yeah, it's good at night.
pet peeve.
Still worth it. Pet peeve.
Pet
Yeah, that's one of them. I could go on and on.
I have a list.
Are we talking about like small pet peeves or big ass pet peeves?
A notable pet peeve, big or small.
Okay. Notable pet peeve.
People filming me while I gig at 2 a.m.
Yeah.
Sounds like a pet peeve.
That's like that one. Maybe, yeah, I could say that absolutely, but just water leaking,
Yeah,
What
I
is it?
understand that one.
What is it?
water running on a floor now. Actually, is the most triggering thing to me.
Yeah, where?
The idea that because after my studio leaked water leaked
That's
into it,
PTSD.
I don't see water. I see problems.
I see problem. I was
Yeah,
going to
yeah.
ask, has that really come on since you've owned a house?
Yeah. Like, for instance, the first problem I had with water was before I was building the studio, there was a pipe sort of going into a drain pipe, and it was and it just leaked one night. It turns out it was the pipe at the top had the wrong fitting. That was my first lesson. I was like, well, lucky I didn't put the floors down. It was like a
Yeah.
week from putting the floors down. We fixed it, no worries. And then another situation with the house was the meter was running as if a tap was at full current.
Oh my
Meaning-
God.
The leak I had somewhere within the housing pipes
Was a bad one.
gushing water. Now, without me kind of knowing that happened, probably not gushing, but like a fair amount for 3 months.
Oh,
Do you know
Wow.
why?
oh.
Because for a big portion of it, one, I didn't know until sort of the bill hit me, because it was internal, like it's somewhere rogue. Well, I won't tell you the end of the story first, but it was somewhere else, and didn't know where.
Oh dear.
So I didn't know for like 2 months, and then I got a bill, and I was like, "Excuse me, what the fuck?"
What?
And then so I probably had 5 to 6 different plumbers
Oh wow.
with no solution. It was
Jeez.
absolutely terrifying.
I need to know the end of
And-
this story.
I had to essentially, between showers and toilets, just turn the water off.
Oh my
So then I
god.
found out, how on earth do you find a leak? Where do you begin, you know? So a plumber's walking around with a stethoscope like he's a doctor, which is hilarious. But that is one of the most, like, I think the origins of finding a water leak is using a device like that with your ears and just sort of listening to
Yeah,
pipe,
wow.
and you can actually sort of hear it. Now, it's a little bit old school, and the guy was a little bit old school. But there was a few people, and some had like stakes that they put in the ground. Anyways, I wasn't looking for a plumber guy. I was actually asking for a water detection guy, because apparently a plumber won't find the problem. He'll only fix the problem. So you have to get
Yeah,
someone
right.
that's called a water detection person who doesn't fix the problem either. So I had 5 of those. So correction to what I said before. I had 5 detection people, plumbers, come out, and they're sort of prodding in the ground going, "It's here." And I'm like, they're like, "You're going to have to dig here and find out." And I dig there and find out it's not there. You know, like it was honestly, and it took this, you know, all jokes aside, it took this old plumber guy with a stethoscope to kind of use a process of elimination of turning it off and on and turning on certain taps to find it. I was actually quite in awe. He was listening to pipes, a keen ear, one would say. And the whole time I was intrigued, because I'm a goddamn sound engineer. And he's telling me that he listens for a water leak. And determines by a process of how much as to, and listening at certain points to then find out. Then I found out this is where it gets real difficult. If people have not correctly abided by extensions to piping that do not use brass or do not use those sort of standard fittings and use plastic piping, then you cannot hear any.
Oh no.
And that's why the first 5 people could not find it. They could tell me there was a leak, but they could not find it because apparently, you know, the original people that sort of built this house did some dodge to save certain costs. But, that means at this point, you can't hear. And I heard every one of those plumbers were like, sounds like it's probably the plumbing and the concrete of this house. You're probably going to have to rip up the concrete of this house. And I'm like, excuse me? Anyways, long story short, it came down to this one old fella. And I think his name was Dave.
Good on you,
If
Dave.
it is, he's the goddamn old mate of the week. Whatever he's actually.
He is old mate of the week.
There were so many plumbers at the time, so I don't remember who did the correct plumb, but I'm pretty sure it was Dave. Anyways, he comes in and he basically determines not where it was, but an almost 100% understanding of where it could have gone, because he found out that in the kitchen line, they had added on to the kitchen line with plastic piping at that point. And from the kitchen line, they went outside and into the garden, and it was actually a hose outside. And it was water that was underground outside, not in the house, but because it was fed off of the house, you just could not tell unless you started turning on taps outside, which, that's why you're thinking about problem outside when it's inside, anyways. Long story short, he ran a new pipe into the kitchen line, like properly and professionally done. And he fixed it. And I obviously now, as a result, don't have a working tap outside. But that tap would have been plumbed underneath the entire area outside. Like, it was like such an error to the whole thing. And that whole ordeal was 3 months, right? So fast forwarding to the future, last year, no issues with actual internal stuff. More to do with the fact that it just rained so much that the house was inadequate to handle that amount of load of water. You can tell why I now have a history of bad experiences with water. I love going to the beach. I love showers. Have no issue with that. I drink water. But there's a glass of water right here. I have no qualms with that.
You are 80% water.
I am 80% water. But when it comes to, like, this is for all you folks out there who are trying to do things or trying to cut corners. Don't cut corners.
Don't do it.
When it comes to water, and the irony of this whole thing is, when I first bought this house, it was on such a quick, fast-paced whim. I was looking for houses for a long time, but this one came up really quickly, and I jumped at it very quickly because it was just about to go to market, and I had not. And it was someone knew my mum's partner who's a real estate agent. It was one of those pass-through things before it goes to the public. And we came in, and I pretty much was sold with the idea of this place, but I will never forget that I only had one day to look at everything.
Oh.
And then I immediately signed the papers. A lot of it was not to do with the house, because a lot of the value of this house is in the fact that it's a duplex block and that it has a future and that it has depth in the land and it has growth in that way. And the house is great for me, and I love the setup that I built for my studio, and it's perfect for that scenario. But there was a door right where this whole problem was. The door was since filled in when the studio was built. But I do recall when and like all the door was ripped out and concrete was properly done. But I do recall seeing the whole door was rusted at the bottom. And I look back at a photo and you can actually see it still online as the house was for sale. You can see the rusty bottom. And it's funny, as one simple thing I chose to ignore it. And essentially that whole side of the house was not like... at least not worked on as much. See, it's the thing when you buy stuff like you don't know that. We don't know these things. When you're buying someone else's property, you essentially have to. So then I went through the process of learning about what's adequate to do that. And I went to the nth degree, pulling away all the sand down to the concrete, tarring it down. That doesn't get rid of the trauma of when it just starts raining, unfortunately. As much as I've done by the book everything that many builders have recommended to me, and I've followed to a T, when it rains outside, long story short, I don't even remember what the first question was.
Pet peeve.
But it is
when you hear water.
There we go. And it's not really a pet. It's more of a aggressive animal peeve.
Yeah, it's a pet peeve, except that pet is a Rottweiler.
Yeah, absolute big ass Rottweiler.
Yeah. So every time you open up a water bill around that time, you'd be opening it up thinking, please don't be high, please don't be high. There's a picture of Snoop Dogg in there.
Because, well, actually, they helped me out. The water company was really good because when you do have water issues like that, they will come in and assist and kind of be like, anything from this point onwards. And as a result of your last bill, we will look at giving you like a temporary hold until you fix it, and then some sort of a leeway discount where I didn't have to pay for all of that. It's kind of like a precautionary, like, it's not my fault, but at the same time, they're like, we're here to help you in some way.
I like that it encourages people to fix water leaks, with water being the most precious resource in the known universe.
I'm pretty sure that was part of either their policy. I think it was either their policy or it was part of the rates that I had for that. I'm unsure, but I definitely know someone implemented that and it made at least my life a bit easier. But I guess, kind of what you were saying sort of before, Dean, I think for me it's like, it's more the sound of the rain and the trickling sound, which I can hear from within the studio. Because it's not the rain that's scary, it's the trickling, it's water. And what all these people that figured out and helped me with the studio repair has told me that water can find its way. Like its source could be so far away, and then it trickles its way through cracks and crevices and will get to the most remote locations. If you've ever seen any underwater cave documentaries and stuff, like, it's so evident, like it so trickles through from nothing. And in my situation, it kind of like trickled, and then right underneath the concrete of the wooden floor underneath me, and a lot of the triggering was me just laying down on the floor to try fix something in the studio and feeling all that water along my back.
Oh no!
Like, oh no!
Sounds like a horror movie.
I'm telling you, we could turn it into a horror movie and somehow make water, which seemingly is what gives us life and is pretty much part of us, this demonic creature.
Reminds me of the very first Final Destination. Before all of the fate things are like an accident. The water that made him slip in the bathroom, it like seeps back again.
Yeah, that was troubling. I never watched any more than that one. I think they kind of got a bit silly after that, perhaps. I just never watched them.
They went ridiculous in the best possible way, and they got better again when technology caught up with what they were trying to do.
Cool. I just never... That first one was creepy as hell, man. The logs, I don't know if you guys have been behind a truck with logs now, but
Number 2.
I can't. I freaked the hell out.
Number 3 with the roller coaster was a bit of fun. And then number 4 was just ridiculous with the cars and like wheels are flying off and shit.
I don't think I remember that. I do remember the roller coaster one, I think. I just never saw the whole movie, and the wood one was just... Was that number 2, did you say?
Which one? The logs?
The logs.
Logs was number 2. That was the start of number 2.
What was number 1 then? Plane crash?
Number 1 is the plane, which is the end of number 5.
How many are there?
Before, there's 5.
Fuck.
They made... The 4th one was The Final Destination, and then they made Final Destination 5. And then I possibly, don't hold me to this, but I possibly heard that there may be a 6th being made.
Wow.
I guess
the
if
5th
they're
one
making
is
money, then hey.
It's great IP. I mean, it's a great concept of you cheated death, now death is catching up, the enemy is invisible, and just comes from, a series of serendipitous accidents. I think it's such a great premise where, like, trying to avoid that is... It's the epitome of, like, not showing the creature.
Yeah.
And it just makes it so much more scary.
It is. Speaking of IP, just like the Saw movies, I guess is one. I chucked on the Screen West. Was it Screen West or maybe the Composers Guild of Western Australia? I think that's them. Anyways, I'm a part of these things, and they gave a live stream to the composer who is now a composer, but at the time was simply just kind of working with Trent Reznor to do synth stuff for the kind of stuff he was doing with 9 Inch Nails, and worked in sort of like, he just knew a lot of synth stuff, and he wasn't really a composer per se. He just did dabbles a lot with synth, and that was back when not much happened, or not much depth with MIDI or synth. It was all kind of in this beginning phases of that, and using synth in film composition and that kind of thing. And I terribly, unfortunately, forget his name, and but I'll probably just Google it. But anyways, he was on a live stream, and he spoke about the origins of how Saw came together and how they approached him, and how it was very much at the beginning of that film. For all of them, it was very much almost a similar situation to us right now, in that it was a brand new creation of an IP, and it was a brand new creation for the people. Like, they were all not new to it, but it was everyone's. Like you said,
they weren't a
Mitch,
name yet.
Everyone's perhaps weren't named, or it was their first hand on something, perhaps, and for him it was his first look into composition, I believe.
Yeah,
He'd done a few other things in assistance with others, but he then jumped on it, and he kind of made this very like the score had such metallic, and he went into speaking with a lot of people who actually now work with people like Hans Zimmer and Trent Reznor. Like, there's these like houses. I think it was this composer, but he talks about an entire house made out of scrap metal. This guy had made these instruments. The entire house was like, it's a house, but inside of it was metallic instruments that he created. Noise making, soundy based, just noise. Anything, you can make noise with all this stuff. And he converted it into a library, I believe, and you can buy a lot of these libraries. And he kind of, at the beginning, before sort of sample libraries came out to this degree, this guy gave these sample libraries around. Essentially, it's kind of like, Mitch, when we did a lot of like sound design stuff, but plethora of lengths of that, and they're just sort of used, and you just kind of use that sound. So the original Saw was kind of him experimenting with putting those sounds to it, and then he spoke about the subsequent films that followed, and how that became like a bigger story. I think Saw's up to like, I don't even know what it's up to now, like 6 or 7.
Am I right in thinking that Trent Reznor did the intro music to the movie Seven?
Yeah, I'm pretty
As
sure.
the fucking dude is going through his notebooks and shit, and it's all like jump cut.
I hope so. It sounds like him for sure.
It feels like it is.
Yeah, I think it is. I think he did a lot of that soundtrack, possibly.
The second song I sing at every gig is "Hurt." The Johnny Cash version.
Yeah.
Written by Trent Reznor.
I love that song.
There's another dude that jumped on it as well. Let me just quickly get for you guys the composer that I was actually talking about is Charlie Clouser.
Charlie who?
I can not say his name right. Charles, or another version people call him Charles, but Charlie Clouser.
Oh, it wasn't him.
No. This is for Saw, but what you were talking about for Seven is Trent Reznor. And
yes.
Trent Reznor is like
that was Trent.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, I thought so. Yeah.
And him and like Charlie, they work quite closely together on a lot of the soundscapes for. And a lot of stuff for 9 Inch Nails. And when Trent Reznor also lent into the world of composition and is now doing composition a lot more now, almost more than the band, I think, or equal to, they're kind of grown this new level of composer that comes from the performer. Wouldn't just be them. I think Danny Elfman was one like that as well. These people came from bands. They were in bands. They were playing real instruments. And thought, someone asked them, or they got associated to doing a movie, and all they did is use what they knew. They didn't go get an orchestra like all the other composers at the time were doing. They simply just did it with the instruments that they had, guitars.
It's an unseen shift in Hollywood, I think. There was a distinctly different voice that came out when the heartstrings were no longer strings, violins, and brass, and
I see what you did there.
And
that was good.
And when it became guitar strings, when it became more like instrumental.
Yeah, I hate. I mean, I don't. At first, I thought a movie could never be made without an orchestra back in the day, because that's what I enjoyed and loved. Now I think quite the opposite. In fact, I probably barely make a movie without an orchestra, because it's goddamn hard to get that many people in a room, and expensive.
Very expensive.
That I obviously want to do. Something that you can do quite a bit in remote settings now, and with orchestra, especially in places like Prague and Vienna and things like that. It's making it a little bit more applicable to composers. But the idea that you don't need to sort of, people like John Williams and them and the likes did such an amazing job of commanding those orchestras and how the sounds were made. But you really can do it with almost nothing, as long as you understand the craft. The problem is, I feel like a lot of people don't understand the craft and realize, I can just do it with a instrument, and then they just play. I've seen a bunch of short films, perhaps alongside mine, when I've been, at a premiere of something like that, and I'm like, it's all well and good. It still sounds great, just like what temp music is like. It still sounds great, but it's not written for the context. Unless, like a licensed song, you're like, couldn't you imagine if this scene had Draft's tune on it? Like, I envision that.
Yeah, well, I get you said it there, context, and I think it pretty much comes down to that. So the thing about orchestra is the thing about cinema itself, which is that part of the bigness of cinema as motion pictures themselves is the grand scale of what you're doing. You're blowing up buses, you're sending people out of planes, you've got someone's human face blown up onto a screen 1,000 times bigger than their face actually is. Like, bigness is so much of it, and so the big sound of the orchestra, if that's what you're going for, you can't replicate that with a band. If you're making a punk thing, you want to lean into punk sound. So again, it's contextual. It depends on what you're doing, and then being appropriate for whatever you're doing.
Of course it is. And it's just,
if you listen to the temp music first and then write a story around the temp music, that temp music is going to be the best temp music you've ever fucking heard.
Yeah, that's exactly right, because you've given it context.
Who was the guy that did the Predator soundtrack?
Alan Silvestri, I'm pretty sure.
Fucking incredible, that. Can you imagine that film without that?
No. You'd want something like that. Iconic. It's just got to have like the riff. It's got the Jaws kind of essence.
Yeah.
Where it's just like riff, and then you're like, oh, here we go.
Well, the easy way, I would say, like looking at, say for instance, from the perspective of looking at it from a composer's perspective, I could see how you could take those scenes and just let them play out with a little bit more modern day, like...
The original Alien had a real sort of semitone, eerie thing going on too, didn't it?
But it was subconscious. It hit your subconscious, like what Mitch said. It hit your heart, with the composition hitting your heart. When you sort of take like I'm not a big fan of, I think, I'm not the biggest fan of like scary movies for two reasons. One, because if they're good, they'll scare the shit out of me. But two, that like maybe the overdoing of silence, perhaps, or like, and which kind of just like what you said, Mitch, it kind of turns off your heart a bit, perhaps, and just lets your eyes do a lot of the. Now, don't get me wrong, silence in music's still good, as long as also the rest of the sound in the scene is proving to tell the rest of the story at that time.
Yeah.
For instance, if we're trying to be, in a scary movie, how easy would it be to just you could put a high string in there, and it's like, ooh, it's scary, and then we all know. Versus not putting that in there and using the rest of it, almost any scene can be really scary if you just kind of in the right context. But if it's, I guess what I'm trying to say with this whole thing is that using sort of stereotypes or trying to break boundaries and trying different things, and you can do it really stereotypically, and an orchestra is really good for that, and it helps. Like birds fluttering, and hence the high strings, it's scary. But when you take that away, it can be almost too realistic. Then you've lost the heart, and you've almost
I think it does the opposite. I mean,
I'm interested in what
seeing action moving when you're not moving doesn't feel real. Seeing the action cut isn't real. So every 2 seconds, the reality of the environment is being interrupted by the fact that it's cutting to a different perspective. Maybe you'll have a cut here and there where you pull through because you're that drawn in, but without something consistently pulling you through, you're stunted. You're not in the story.
Mm.
You need the tension holds because you're holding tension with the screen.
Yeah, like even or even specifically with the sound design we did, Mitch, with the background dog barks or the
The cars.
Like the weird subs. Like the weird subs all the way through a lot of Twin Peaks, the original series.
I fucking love Twin Peaks. That is my favorite series of all time.
Yeah, Mitch, we've had a whole breakdown.
I
on this
love
before.
Twin Peaks.
Yeah.
Not because it's good. It's so trashy TV, but the whole thing together has such this pure whole vibe that I'm just so about. Lynch in Eraserhead and a couple of the others has a it's like negative. It's like 8 hertz. It's around that realm. I think possibly up to 40, between 8 and 40 hertz, and it's sort of like a binaural beat, but it basically just triggers anxiety. It's just like it's essentially I think the psychology is it's around the same frequency that you hear or feel. Really, don't really hear it, but your ears feel when there's an earthquake coming.
Yeah.
So it just has this unsettling, like something is
Ominous.
fundamentally wrong with the planet right now.
That's all
like
the
everything
way...
is not quite right.
Yeah, man. That's all the way through. What's the film where all those English troops are stuck on the beach?
Oh, Dunkirk.
Fuck, dude. Did you
And
see
to
that
see-
in cinema?
Yes, and that's the perfect example for what we're talking about, where it didn't have the soundtrack
The
and no
subsonic
sound.
rumble goes on and
You
on
do
and
just
on.
have shots of people on a beach.
And
So
that subsonic
all of the
rumble-
tension can't
Right.
be there without having this unsettling
Oh,
thing that's pulling you through the entire time. And I found the OldMate version of that is the air conditioner vents, which I love. That there's this like hum and rattle that is just sitting there and then gets louder.
Yeah.
And then when the tension builds, that gets quite suffocating. And then when you when that tension drops, you can just sort of have it that little bit quieter, and then you just feel the emptiness that you didn't realize wasn't there because it's just been filled by sound. So all of a sudden you do have actual quiet, and then you have the contrast of what that actually is.
yeah.
So then you can build and release tension and just have a constant.
It reminds me of the thing that people do in a tense scene. It's already tense, and then there's a baby starts crying or something. You're like, holy fuck.
No.
Or somebody doesn't
Universal.
answer the phone like for a fucking long time, and you're like, fuck! This is all like
Stop that from happening,
making me tense.
Yeah.
What they used in Dunkirk to sort of explain that even
Yeah.
to that even further, that shepherd tone,
Yeah.
which is like I'm just reading a better way to explain it because I'm not the best at explaining this stuff, but like an audio illusion that creates the feeling of consistent, never-ending rising or falling.
Yeah.
It's the barbershop spindle where it just the lines keep going down, but it's not actually going down. It's just going around in a circle. Or what's the Carl Sagan talks about this when you're kind of going around a three-dimensional shape in a two-dimensional something. It just looks like you just keep I don't know how he explains it, but essentially the idea is that it feels like it's never ending. And in the case of music, it feels like it's constantly going up as new notes getting introduced, and you just never know when. And that's unsettling. But that's using like actual. That's a depth of thought, especially for a film music like that, of almost like anxiety. Yeah, like you're just on this.
Building tension and not releasing it again.
Yeah, just this anxiety of like gunshots and things going off, and
Or worse, not hearing it yet. Like, just you know that they're coming and you don't know when. And so the tension is building, but it's also relentless because it's not going to end until...
Yeah.
true.
And it was just 3 hours of that.
It was tense, man. I felt like the chairs were rattling. Like
Yeah.
in the old cinema I saw it.
That's one of those movies where it's like the breadth of seeing at that large scale is so much of the experience.
This is giving me fucking anxiety just sitting here.
Yeah.
And you're in the same state as the guys on the beach, right?
Yeah, totally. So that, good filmmaking. That's a big tick. Like, you're there. You're fucking in it.
Like anything to do with Aronofsky, right? Like, fuck.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah.
He puts you in the same horrible state as the characters somehow.
Yep. Which is... I love that. Like, to be able
I
to
do too, man.
reach into someone else's mind and then give them a perspective that they couldn't have had otherwise.
It's gorgeous torture. That's what I think Aronofsky is.
I like that. It's a great.
What we can get to your pet peeve.
Oh, yeah.
We didn't.
Sorry.
people forgetting my questions. No. It's
Oh,
okay.
yeah. Okay, moving on.
My pet peeve is people chewing loudly.
Ah.
That is very much a pet peeve.
Chewing gum or like actual food?
Anything. It's the sound of grotesque chewing, squelchy chewing.
So you probably shouldn't watch Paulie Vlogs. There's a guy on Instagram who has like Chocky Tuesday and Sausage of the Week. He's fucking hilarious though.
I have a physiologically fight and flight response, but primarily fight.
Yeah, you won't like it. He's on the. He's the sweetest little dude. He's on the spectrum.
Oh,
and he tries when he
I
sticks
definitely
out,
just don't need to be.
Like he'll try a sausage and he'll be like,
okay.
The fucking age
is already good.
Yeah, let's not. Let's not.
And he'll be like,
That's
fucking yummy.
To give you an idea, one time my dad was vehemently not picking up on my very clear cues of, can you please not eat?
Yeah.
It was something odd that you really did not need to eat loudly, but he was going to town on it, and I bent a like purely steel knife. Like there was no plastic on it. It was just metal steel, the entire knife. I bent it at a 90-degree angle with a thumb. I had so much adrenaline.
To stop you from stabbing him with it?
Just there was just so much intensity in my body. I was young. I was like 13 or 14. I wasn't allowed to leave the table, wasn't going to tell my dad what to do.
This is where their thumb pressure comes from, and that's what you've been up to this week.
This is what I've been up to this week. I've been bending knives with my thumb.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, but like I tried later when I was like not as angry, and I just couldn't bend it anywhere near as much. I could get it maybe like, you know, 15 degrees. But yeah, this was just in half.
Yeah. I mean, if you watch this guy every time because he's such a sweetheart, you'll be like, he's lovely, but fuck the chewing.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's like it completely shuts off any sense of empathy in my entire body.
Yeah, wow.
It's quite tragic. I just removed myself from the situation. It got to the point at home where I would just have headphones, and I'm like, I'm so sorry, guys, but I'm just gonna pop these on, so I don't murder somebody.
I do like that.
Yeah,
Have
that's
we got
a bit
any
of a
more
pet
Reddit
peeve.
questions? I may have to leave shortly.
I feel like we've only been going for about an hour and a half, so we can
OldMates
roll
of
it.
the week. I mean, I've already done mine, so we might as well go with the.
You've sort of had a bit of two. I mean, we've had an update of Richard. Richard's been updated.
We should take popcorn next to you at the premiere, Mitch.
Yeah.
You eat fucking popcorn next to me. You're sitting somewhere else. I'll throw you down the front.
Is that how Mad directed? He's like, "Don't have you eat popcorn in my movie. Concentrate."
It's weird because like especially when it's people I don't know that well, I have like this is fundamentally why I turned to spirituality. It was because I meditated because I needed something to fucking control my mind. I needed to be able to, you know, I am clearly neurodivergent in some respect. I am clearly not neurotypical, whether it's ADHD or whatever the fuck. I ain't thinking like other people think it. I'm coming around to that idea, and
we're all something.
So. I think I agree with that. We're all somewhere along some of the spectrum somewhere, but I definitely turned to like meditation early on to go like I got to be in control of my own mind, like, and I would encourage everyone to do it, but essentially that's what Dexies or coffee or everything else that is recommended for people with really hyperactive minds. Essentially, that's what meditation is. It's just you're not relying on another thing, you're relying on yourself. And I definitely like found that more than anything else, like when people start chewing, it's like people have a right to, people can do whatever the fuck they want. I can't tell them what to do. So that's my problem, not theirs.
Even when someone's trying to be quiet eating chips and they keep their mouth really shut and like.
So it's not the loudness, it's the squelch factor. It's the grossness. It's like people can talk while they're eating and it's not that bad. People can talk while they're eating and it's like sticking in their teeth. And I'm fucking ready to knock some teeth out. like it's like the Kid Savage thing, where it's like people start pissing you off, and it's like,
Yeah.
the Starved soundtrack comes in.
I feel like this could be written into the script somewhere.
Just has this pet peeve of knocking people's teeth
might need
out
an
every time they talk about
assistant
reading.
director
No, that would be too close to home. People would be like, "Oh, this is an autobiography."
So what?
No,
then
it's
Because you
your
just
dad
don't want
is
to film somebody chewing loudly. You'd be like, kill it.
fuck no. Yeah, I wouldn't be wearing the headphones. That would be absolute torture.
So your dad-
There's a word for it. It's called misophonia.
Yeah.
Oh yes,
I've heard of that.
we
Yeah.
have discussed it.
Severe, like anxiety or stress response
Oh, dude. Then
relating to sounds.
don't watch Paul E. vlogs then.
I'm not going to. I wasn't going to from the first time you mentioned it. Before you told me anything other than.
How'd you feel when
he
I
eats loudly.
impersonated him?
It wasn't too bad, but the fact that these earbuds are right in my ears is already not a great time.
Very sound.
Yeah, no, not just
So
what it
your
sounds.
old mate of the week,
Yeah.
then, is that your dad then for all the squelching over the years?
No, that is not old mate behavior. That is anti old mate behavior. I had an old mate. Who was my old mate? Oh, hang on, I have my old mate. Dean, do you have any old mates?
I feel like I've got a few, and I don't know exactly what happened in this situation, but I had a gig on Sunday, and there was a woman there that was like wearing a nurse's uniform, I think, and she had two little girls with her that were maybe 3 and 4.
Mm-hmm.
And they were sort of like gradually, little girl, one girl in particular was like taking like 5 steps towards me, stopping, watching me closer, and like stopping.
Cool.
Kids are just hilarious at gigs, aren't they, Mason? Like,
They are. They don't know what to do. They're like all confused or like they just stand. They stare like.
they're like looking at your hands, looking at you singing, like, how's this happening? Like, as if it's the first time they've ever
They're
seen
taking it in. I mean, it's the best.
It is the best, man.
I've
It's the
been
best.
there. Yeah, for them, it's the best. For us, it's confusing. But if you know you've been the opposite, then you give it back.
Yeah, and I did Wiggles.
Yeah. See, that's the thing.
nice.
When a musician considers a few things like that and then does give it back, that's exactly the
Yeah.
right choice.
Love it.
And then you get a thank you from the parents as they leave, don't you? Because they're overjoyed that you like interacted with their kid.
Yeah.
And I do enjoy it myself as well. Like, but there was an older guy up the back of the room who sort of yelled out a few requests. And I don't know what happened,
Was it Rich?
but I feel like the mum had already bought these kids lunch or something, and they were asking for chips or something like that. I couldn't hear the conversation, but I could see the kids like a bit like, and I feel like she's maybe a single mum, just couldn't afford to keep spending money. No, I mean, how much is a packet of chips? I don't know. But this old dude that was up the back went inside, bought a drink, and he came out with 2 packets of chips and gave them to the kids.
Means well.
Oh,
I feel like
I like
he's
that.
my old mate of the week.
That's
There was
great.
part of me that
It's-
was like, oh, fuck. Like, was the mum just
Yeah.
like going, I don't have the money because she doesn't want him to eat shit? But she was genuinely
Yeah.
thankful. Like, it's just hell for them.
Okay. That's nice. That's
So
nice. You read the
my
situation.
old-
It's sort
he's
of
the old man.
anything about other people at all interacting with another person's children these days is unfortunately a little bit
Yeah, I know.
touchy. Where it's like, again, not even from a dodgy perspective, but also just from like what they can and can't eat and all sorts of other shit.
Yeah.
It's just like don't associate. So it's really nice to see that there's some genuine
Yeah. And it didn't
behavior
feel
going on.
sus.
That's nice. I love that.
Yeah, it
I love
was
when
nice.
it's wholesome. Fuck
it's a
yeah.
lesson for the kids that people actually give and can do nice things, even if
Take
you
food
don't
from
know
strangers.
who they are. Like, well, yeah, but also, but also, you're right, Mitch. There's so much negativity around that nowadays.
I know.
Back in the
Sucks.
day, apparently, I wasn't there around this time, but
Was probably.
you could essentially punish or take
Yeah.
on board the adult responsibilities when it comes to, like, say you're at a playground and you'd be like, a kid does something wrong to, say, your kid.
Yeah.
Back in the day, it would be kind of like this. Now, we know we shouldn't be kind of doing that. Like they would kind of join in as a temporary mother, not like in a
Yeah. No,
taking
totally.
it away, just
Yeah.
in like
Oh man, I got fucking scolded by other people's mums something chronic when I'm hanging out with mates. When I was a little, I had a mate who we had this old horse carriage thing, or he had this old horse carriage thing, and he was talking about, I don't know, we were like 13, right? And this is like an old thing, and the wood's like falling apart. They were like wooden slats. It was like curved at the top, and it was all made of these red wooden kind of slats all the way down it, and there was like big metal beams going over, so there was lots of them. And he was talking to me. He gave me all this context about he was going to trash the whole thing, just leave the metal frame, and then put new wood around the inside and make it like a cool, man cave hideout kind of whatever. And so I was like, sick. And so I just picked up like a metal pole of some description. We lived out in the country. There's just shit lying around everywhere. I had a harpoon gun when I was like 7. No harpoons, but just the gun, because it was on a neighbor's property, and I was like, can I have it? And he's like, yeah, sure. So we just had shit lying around. So I picked up this like metal pipe, and I just ditched it as hard as I could, and it hit one of the wooden things and just like smashed it in. And so now it's got a hole in it. So then he was like, fuck yeah. And then we just started throwing shit at this wooden thing. And then eventually like there's just like all of these planks of wood are all falling out. And then his mum comes out and was like, what are you doing? And we're like, well, I mean, he was going to, he told me he was going to tear it apart anyway. And, but it was like still like they used it as storage and shit. So it was kind of rainy season. So it was like, lawnmowers and rakes and shit and whatever else in there. So yeah, I just got it across the back of my head, and I felt sorry for myself for a couple of days, but then later on I was like, yeah, well, I fucking deserve shit.
Yeah,
it's like
whereas
trashing someone's yard, like.
Whereas that would have turned into what was just a small little lesson. It would have turned into a physical abuse case in the courts from one parent to another, when and damage of property and all that kind of stuff. It's like, come on,
yeah.
Like those were the best days when like. I still never forget. I got this really fond memory of one of my mum's friends. Were all out at the beach once, and she just had this. She already cracked it. She was not having me. She was so sick of me being like, I don't want to be at the beach.
Oh no.
My mum was being all positive, but my mum was somewhere else, I think, coming up, and I was sort of walking ahead with all them, with all the other parents, and I was just kind of like, this sucks. And this lady was like, she's like, you don't have to be so negative and rude. And it wasn't even that much what she said, but I just remember that being like one of the first times I was like, what?
Yeah.
You can discipline me too? Just kept crying for quite a while after that. But still, it was like, it was just, I just remember that used to be a thing that, and in this case, it's a positive one. Like, that rarely happens now, like that it's actually like someone wants to give. Yeah. And all he was doing was listening in. He wasn't asked. He wasn't a part of it.
Yeah.
He was just listening and observing and being like, I could do something nice for these people. So what an old mate. That's an old mate.
Yeah. What an old mate. Good on you.
Mitch, what's your old
Love
mate?
it.
The girl that slapped
I have 2 old mates. I have an old mate and an old mateess.
Okay.
And they are... And an old mateess.
I'm old mate too.
An old love. They are my cousin, Nick, and his new wife, Riley, who got married on the weekend. Congratulations, Nick and Riley.
Congratulations.
And they, at the ceremony, they had exchanged rings. They had kissed the bride and groom. And then they grabbed 2 VBs, cracked them, and necked them both.
No way.
Pristine hills of remote southern New South Wales, in the middle of absolutely nowhere. We got on this bus, and there was like potholes for shit. Like, this thing is a roller coaster all the way out there for like 20 minutes out from an already remote location. Rolling hills. There were some horses. They built this massive teepee for everyone to be under, and they're just getting married over this hill, and there's just mountains in the background. Neck VB. And I'm like, you fucking beauty, let's go. And that set the pace for them. The rest of that was at about 2 p.m. So we went from there. Had a grand old wedding, and they put together the whole thing, and it was awesome. So, old mates of the week.
That reminds me of sorry to interrupt, but it reminds me of a bikie wedding that I played in a band. Not the most fun thing to do, I've got to say, no offense to
would have been
anybody in a motorcycle gang. But their bridal waltz was the song Desperate for Changing. It's like a mellow verse.
Yeah.
And it's I'm falling even more in love with you. Whatever.
Love it.
and like they're slow dancing to the verse. It gets to the chorus. He rips his fucking shirt off, and they're like slam dancing, like chest to chest, like running each other.
Oh, what legends!
Gosh,
Yes,
what a great
Madness.
song.
That reminds me of that.
That's a
bikies. Though I can't condone everything that they do, them as individuals to people they like are some of the most beautiful human beings on planet Earth, and I find it very hard to square. I think they're just very passionate people, and that has some dangerous manifestations too. But they just have such big hearts, and they're so much fun to talk to.
I love it. I much prefer that to some fucking tight, like some like I've played so many weddings, like I imagine Mason, where it's just fucking boring.
Yeah,
my missus tells me so many because like she does it a lot more than I. I mean, I used to do it a lot more, but honestly, I'm terrified by the notion of playing at a wedding now. I stay clear of it, not for anything, not because I necessarily don't want to. It's just there's a lot.
It's pressure, man.
A lot of pressure, and my missus does it. You know, she does it so many weddings, and she might not even like the pressure of like the correct timing of cooking food and crazy, but she will nail the whole process of walking down the aisle and the music afterwards and everything like that, and she kills it. I've heard her literally learn songs the day off.
Oh,
yeah,
She's
yeah.
wedding in like 2 hours, and she's still learning it. But she's
Pressure, man.
Quick. She picks it up really quickly, and she can handle it. I cannot handle that pressure, and it's just too much. It's too.
I know, right?
But like then she tells me of some gigs where is like when she describes to me, I'm like, that sounds like the most boring wedding.
Yeah.
So some of these blokey ones, some of these like, she just played a gay wedding recently where the two gents walked down in velvet green jackets.
Oh
together.
yeah.
Fully decked
velvet green. Let's go.
And then the sort of the party, I guess what are the bridal party, kind of went with them, and it was like this. When they do it their own way, their own style, their own flavour, their own flair, whether it be the VB at the aisle or a very over-dramatic tune like the one that you sort of mentioned before. I don't know the name of the tune.
Yeah, when it has personality, when it's them, when it's the people get married.
Rather than like, I've seen a lot of old Macedonian church weddings.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing wrong with them. The reception was fantastic. But when I was at the church for it, it is very much them just following the footsteps of how their previous gen did it within the same church. Like,
I guess when it's a religious wedding, I guess there is a process that is already adhered to, and everyone sort of already knows that every wedding they've been to is sort of similar. So it's almost like you're fitting into someone else's system.
It is,
but
and I
with
Western
weddings.
Western weddings are so much better. I'm
I
sorry.
like the tradition. I love tradition. I love symbols, and I think there's something to be said for like if you're part of that culture already, and those things already mean something. I think that's really important. I think it serves it feels as something that we don't really get in the West.
Yeah.
You can't really compete with
I've seen a comedian
green velvet jackets.
The comedian as the actual like just what do you call it? Doing the actual like. Why it's escaped me right now. The person that does all the talking.
Celebrant.
I've seen like a full-on comedy act.
Oh yeah. This one was not too far off. This was pretty good.
Almost like a legitimate like. I've seen gorgeous ones as well. Don't get me wrong. And the recent church one I went to as well was also quite. But they did have strict things because it was like a well-known church, and it was kind of like you had to be out on the dime, so
that's crazy.
The mass could come in and that kind of thing. It was kind of like one of those. But like I've seen a few comedy ones, and it's just like, or something that's just so unique. And Alana shows me a lot of them as well, and it's just like so spectacular and done so different and so creative. And honestly, if I saw people neck VBs like that or Emu exports either or, I would be joining in afterwards. I would be so totally their vibe or what it is, and I think that's beautiful.
Yeah, the whole thing. I mean, the celebrant was definitely clued in because he was pretty much a stand-up comedian, and so much of what he was saying was. And he went around the wedding before, and he's like, "What is the either marriage or life advice that you give to them? Bearing in mind, this is the last thing I'll ever hear before being married. And they went around to a few people and was like, who's been married the longest? And then went up to one of the old couples. And then the guy was like, and I think this was the bride's, Riley's grandfather, I believe, possibly. And he was like, if you have the last word in the argument, it's the first word in the next argument. and then his wife next to him was like, you're wrong. That's great.
This reminds me of some accidental comedy that was at one of my best mates' wedding. As part of the ceremony, they wanted Never Tear Us Apart in excess.
Yeah.
And they're like, two of us that are his best mates are professional musos, and so one guy sang and I just fucking played bass or something, and we just had like a mishmash band to do this one song. And he's like, oh, do you know any sax players? I'm like, yeah, I know this one dude that could do it for sure. He plays sax.
Fuck yeah.
And it gets to the fucking sax solo. And this dude, like, it sounds like a teenager's voice breaking when he hits the first note. It's like,
no.
instead of like the proper fucking sax solo. And I'm like, what the fuck, dude?
Ruined
Everyone
it.
burst into fucking laughter. Like,
No, that's so
I
embarrassing.
think that's what that.
holy shit.
Holy crap, man! That is not the time to cook it. That is, you do that in a pub or in a recording. You can do the second
last
take.
place to cook it.
Gosh, that's ridiculous.
Oh, it's hilarious.
You know, I've been to numerous weddings, like music aside from this one. I've been to multiple weddings where the sound is so bad.
No. Good sound is important everywhere.
Starting off with my brother's wedding.
Oh, no.
It was on a beach. You know, back then the technology to have wireless speakers was not as common.
Oh, man.
But at the same time, I just don't think this... It wasn't about the fact that we didn't have technology. I think it just the technology failed at the time. It was just like the speaker wasn't kind of loud enough. And the celebrant was, I think, blind as well. So
Stressful.
it was kind of like this interesting... Don't get me wrong.
He was talking out to the ocean,
beautiful.
and everyone was
The
like, I
scene was
can't
beautiful.
hear.
But like, you know, me being a sound engineer and me also being standing right next to him and being like, what did he say? Like, what did she say? I don't even remember. So that's like, but that's okay. You know, some things go wrong. And I remember my mate's wedding, I was playing the aisle song with one of my other mates as they were going down, and I had a full PA. And the celebrant had, ironically, the exact same wireless speaker my brother's wedding celebrant had, and I was wondering why they were delaying the aisle, walking down the aisle, because we're like waiting for a queue. And she just comes up to me, the celebrant, and goes, do you think we might be able to use your microphone? Because my speaker has cooked it and overheated in the sun.
Oh,
And I just
Perth
thought-
Beach. Oh, my God.
No, this one, my brother's one was on a beach, but this one was in like, it's just afternoon sunset. It was in like bush area, but it was
Perth
just...
is so hot, even the sunset
hot.
is cooking speakers.
And I just thought to myself, I was just like, if I wasn't here
No, you'd be fucked.
and had a PA set up, how could this have gone for you as a celebrant? Like, I know a lot of them are only like 15, 20 minutes, sometimes shorter, sometimes just a little bit longer. It's not that long of an ordeal. And sometimes it's tight net. You can hear enough if they project. But no one wants to be, do you take... Like, you don't want to be fucking yelling.
How many people were there? I guess that's entirely dependent on what size of the crowd.
You know, you've got everyone that was maybe sitting in chairs in the main sort of 4 rows probably could hear it. But then, you know, there was so many people behind that creating a semicircle around the whole thing.
Like, are we talking Life of Brian, Jesus, Sermon on the Mount, where they're down the bottom of the helmet?
This is so triggering for me.
Blessed are the fish.
That's actually so good.
This is triggering for me, man.
It's actually, I honestly, because I was doing the sound at Alana's, like my partner's sister's wedding. She's obviously walking down the aisle.
Yeah.
So, and it was just funny because I've written for quartets and I've written some arrangements for songs for quartets to play, to go down aisles and stuff like that. And you use like a bit of looping, and Alana does this as well. You kind of gauge it based on where they are, and you kind of just allow it to sort of play out, and you just sort of, hopefully you time the main chorus or the main theme to land while the bride's coming down. And then as they kind of do, you taper out whilst the sort of the bridesmaids kind of correct her dress, and then you come to a close. Well, I cut together the song length for their thing, and they told me a time length, and and then literally everyone had gone down except for the bride, and the song had ended. And I look over because my partner knows. She knows. She already knows, like, fuck. And I'm like, fuck. And I look over at her and I'm like, fuck. So I just sort of play the song again. Just held like, start again.
Pressure, man.
And you can fade it out. And look, to the layman's people that, to layman's terms, no one would have really known.
No.
Like, it was done probably seamless enough, but obviously the two of us very well and truly knew. And
if they give you a song length and then they don't stick to the timing, and what else can you do?
So much of it, what I've come to realize, if you're the live musicians, it's fine. And I've played songs before, and you can loop stuff. You have freedom, just like you would in a musical theatre production or something like that. You've got a conductor sort of going, keep going, keep going until now. Whereas, like with that, there is
nope.
It was like intuition of me being like, oh fuck, start
again.
And kind of being like, oh jeez, that was just and it hurt me so much.
I did sound for a dance theatre. It was the theatre as well, but mainly dance. I did that from, I'm going to say 14 years old until 17, 18, just in the school holidays, make absolute bank, because they would just be like all of the dance companies doing all of their end of year shows for like 2 nights to a week, all in like an 8-week period, and you're just cranking out. I was doing like 12 to 16 hour days, up and down the ladder, doing the curtains some nights doing the sound, and then when you're meant to have a break, this was like some out in WA, so the all the new laws and shit didn't quite make it all the way through, so didn't ever get a break, went down to the kiosk and worked the thing downstairs in your break, got free food. But it was like just cranked out, like you put on the whole show basically with like a handful of other dudes whose sisters at one point came through one of the dance troupes at some point, and then and boys were like, I don't want to be sitting in the audience.
I have to pick your brain on that, because I still do that. I still do those dance comps in the school holidays for Newman College, as they say.
Right.
And it's like I'm doing.
So these are but these are dance companies. So these are like the actual specific. Like
that is exactly it's exactly what you're saying. It's like this is at the theatre. They come to the theatre.
Oh right, I see.
Hire it out.
Yeah.
And these dance companies go through their presentations where they give their trophies and they.
Yes, there was always a bit of that. We had to find which thing the mic is plugged into, and so you can get audio. Anyway, on the topic of the songs, you already have when they give you the songs, you request, or if they didn't do it, you burn chasers after the song. So it pretty much is the same song again, but it picks up from a more interesting point.
It does,
and it's quieter, and it's also just, and so then I don't even need to fuck with levels. I can just keep the tape rolling, and then it just goes to the next one, and then you've just got this softer. And then if I want to
really
boost
funny
it, you can
say that, Mitch, because I didn't know about that. But I found out about that with QLab. I had someone give me. That's where the term chaser. I didn't also understand what that meant in context to this. Was like a 30-second playoff, or with a fade included. So it actually allowed them to have a cue time. For a lot of those dance recitals I did, it would be 30 seconds, 1 minute. It would be the performance with maybe 10 seconds playoff, and then like
16 minutes,
1 minute, and then 10 seconds playoff, 1 minute, 30 seconds playoff, and you just got kid after kid after kid after kid. And it's just funny that you've done that, and that you and I have weirdly got that weird. Like I'm doing that in a few weeks' time, and I'm doing
it's hilarious.
In they're like. As I did last year with Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and we're doing The Lion King.
Oh, nice.
Legally Blonde. I come on and do the whole season of like actual sound for their show.
Yeah, I remember you doing that last year.
Which is just, but that's a different thing to actual dance companies. Seeing different dance companies as well. That I could talk a whole podcast about dance companies.
Oh my god, I could talk your off.
We were just talking before about how an old person. Someone else's mum or parent would, discipline you at a...
Oh my god, dance mums, holy shit. You'd see that shit behind the scenes was brutal.
Oh my goodness.
Brutal.
That was some questionable tactics and just Yeah, I will not continue from
No.
this spot. It is terrifying. But,
Emotionally scarring
yeah,
behaviour from mothers out there.
absolutely.
Scathing.
I've seen kids just like, I'm never dancing again from
Yeah.
I've
It's
seen-
pretty
man,
brutal.
pretty funny. Well, what a fucking old mate you've got then. The two old mates you had.
Yeah, and actually one more old mate on sort of this topic. For all the photos, so the wedding has happened. Now we're around this big teepee. Incident as an aside, it was interesting to see some people throw an event maybe once in their life for their wedding or whatever, and maybe a big party. But just like walking in, seeing the food vans being set up, seeing this big teepee, seeing areas for people to sort out getting drinks and write their name on them so everyone knows where their drinks are. And I'm like, man, this is a film set. Like, people are doing this every day of their lives. Like, this is like I walk on here and don't bat an eyelid. Like, and there's like the one-off event for them, and like the stress of doing the event. You're like, fuck, man.
Yeah, I agree with you. Putting on a show or a festival, I love being a part of it, and people just don't. They're just so in awe. Hence, like what you said before, Dean, about the kid just like, just staring off blank space. Like, how is this musician doing it? That's insane,
But they were trying to pull together, so the photographer was leaving, or needed to leave after the wedding, and they were paying it by the hour or whatever. So everyone was like running around like chickens with a head, like women in these beautiful dresses in country, so just on grass with their heels like stabbing in, just running full pelt past me to like find someone for the photo, and other people, and they're all in a flap, and they're all looking for people. And there's this guy that I met, I'm not sure if it's relation to anyone, Tom, and he told me earlier that he's a traffic coordinator down in Wollongong. So, and he's just standing there like watching this happen, and I'm like, "Oh, traffic coordinator, you getting involved in this?" And he's like, "Mate, it's my day off. I'm not getting paid for this shit."
A traffic coordinator.
Talking about those.
These women are just running.
Talking about those mishaps, Mason, at weddings, the like slight mishaps. Like where I have learnt a song, especially for the fucking wedding, like spent hours and hours and hours on it. I've even got the lyrics stuck to my speaker, facing me. Back when I had big 15-inch speakers or whatever.
Yeah.
Not that I do now. But I imagine, a bride and a groom in the moment, they won't fucking notice anything because they're...
No.
I imagine them watching the wedding video about going, what the fuck did he just sing there? Like, for that line, like where if I fucked it up. I imagine them watching the wedding video together going, what the fuck?
That's where it gets scary because nowadays there's professional videographers who are also capturing audio.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's so much more. Whereas my missus, like, she'll film. She's just, she's so used to it. But you're right, though. It takes, like, I got grilled once. I don't know if I've never been asked back because of it. I learned the lyrics to In Excess, New Sensation, and a medley that was built from a marching band to perform at a Wildcats game right before at the RAC Arena in Perth, right? So it's my first stadium gig. It wasn't my first, but it was a stadium gig, and it was epic. And I was like, I was in the middle of the court with a full-on brass band, and I learnt those damn lyrics. I know I did. I got told during the rehearsal and afterwards that pretty much the captain or the owner, so to speak, of the Wildcats, that In Excess is like their favorite band, and they were frustrated that I got the lyrics wrong. And I was like, I didn't get the lyrics wrong. I know I didn't. Not to mention your shitty PA speakers in the RSC arena when it's not a concert, just like it is at like stadium places. It's not built for the situation. So there's this delay that creates this echo that is like, ugh. And I had to battle with that. And I'm just like, yeah, I still to this day, but like that's, I thought I was doing right by. I learned everything I could, but when people are filming it now, especially like a wedding thing, oh my gosh, you cannot get that wrong.
Most couples I run into are pretty fucking happy though. Like even decades later, they're like, oh fuck, we love you still.
Yeah, you're a reminder. You're a symbol of their.
It's a huge thing to be a part of, isn't it?
It really is, and I look at what Alana's done for some of these people, and the gentleman that she played with, their wedding, the gay wedding she went to. Years before, she got asked to play at one of them manages a Spur venue here in Perth, and then she played there. Now she plays there every Valentine's Day. She plays there all these different times, and she was meant to go through an agency originally and then went out on her own. She said, do you want to just get me separately? And they did. And then she gets to know the manager so well that, she ends up playing at his wedding. And then having drinks with him afterwards, and it becomes a set in stone thing where if you're playing at their wedding, they will, for some people, it's some of the best days of their life. You know? And you are there to entertain them on that day. That is goddamn scary. But
yeah, I mean, but also in a way, it's like it's almost not even about the just start quality though. At that point, it's about the personal touch. Like you want the people around you that you like and their mates. I would be honored if you guys sung things incorrectly at my wedding or at the OldMate premiere. Like getting it wrong makes it yours, right?
Yeah, or custom or unique to that moment. Or
I want you to change all the lyrics.
Is Draft
make up your own.
Going to perform at that? Yeah.
I'd love it. I'd love it if you did. We'd have to have that conversation. I really hope so.
Yeah,
it's fucking awesome.
You mean the end premiere or just the one that's coming?
No. The film premiere. I want to do a Sydney premiere and a WA premiere. Love if Draft did both. I see him hopefully doing the Perth one, and I can see both Dean Kyrwood and Mason Vellios performing at both, and
we'll get my mate on sax and we'll do.
Fuck that guy. Fuck that guy. No, Mason has a sax man, and he's our boy.
Yeah.
He's
Mitch
our sax boy.
Guy. He does weddings, actually. He's been asked to do a few private weddings.
Legend,
he walks
boy.
around with a wireless saxophone and this amazing jacket, and will just serenade people with a saxophone. I go so much back with him, hence from him being in that music video that we did. And that is one hell of a character. Another fellow, he needs to be there. He needs to be somehow in this film. In the score somehow. I feel like we can find a place.
We'll put him on the side of the road at some point when he's going somewhere. When the kit's going somewhere, and so just in passing, you sort of hear it ahead of time, and then you'll be past him, and then he sort of fades out in the background. He's just made it into the. And then we come back later, and he's we'll have a callback.
Totally agree. Absolutely. On that note, I'm gonna go make some dinner.
We can have wait. Just before you go, it's Kit when he's in his car at the beach. And it's seems like a sad scene when he's lost everything, and we can hear the saxophone in the background, but then it just pulls out a little bit wider, and there's actually a guy with a saxophone just sitting on the bench next to it.
Dude, that would
I'll tell you something. I'll tell you something hilarious to do at gigs too, Mason. Do you guys do Never Tear Us Apart?
No, the demographic at the Mustang Bar, it is quite specific, but they have their own version of it. We have our own version of the Wonder Walls and the we can't play Eagle Rock, we can't play certain things.
I was going to say, if you do it, this is one crowd interaction thing I do, because I don't have a fucking sax player when I'm playing solo. I'm just before it, I'm who's got the sax solo?
Oh, yes.
Nice.
And someone always goes...
We do that with the singer of the band does that with when we do Take On Me. He does this deal where we're we couldn't afford a keys player, so we're going to have to get you to sing this next line. Ready? And then they all go, and it's fantastic. It's
so good.
They feel like they've been a part of the band and the music, and
they love it more. They love it more because they were involved.
Yeah, and then we didn't.
You can do it with Final Countdown.
Oh, that's another one. Yeah, you can do it with the craziest is Sex on Fire is our craziest. You might remember that when you did that. It was the singer divides the room in the bridge section. He divides the room. And we kind of stop playing except for the drums. And he goes, right side. And then I kind of get up on the left speaker and encourage everyone on the left side. And he'll go in the middle. And then we'll do one little cutout with the drums cut out. And the entire crowd just goes, whoa! The sex is on fire! And we all come back in and it's just so loud. So good. And it all depends. Sometimes it's not. And sometimes you're like, fuck you guys. How hard is it? Thing? This song is so well known. And then sometimes they surprise you and the energy is so much that you're taken back by it and you're like, whoa.
Awesome.
And you look at each other and say,
fun, man.
This is special.
That's one more thing that I love about film is when you mobilize a large group of people to put their energy in one direction and then you feel the effect of that. Whoa. I did this scene I'll tell the story, and then you may go, Mason. In fact, you may go whatever you like. You can do what you damn well please. But I hope you stick around for this story. In high school, we were doing it was like what do they call it? It was like something about the arts, but it was like Battle of the Arts or something, and it was sort of the 5 houses, the 5 factions, 5 colors of the school against each other, but in the arts. And so when I was like later on, like year 11 and 12, like that was my full shit. Like I was getting out of other classes to do more like media related shit. So I just like bought. I didn't want to write it or do anything. I was doing year 12 at the time, so I was like, fucking someone else can like write the thing. But I had this like full integrated like 3 angels fell from heaven and had to help and try to help this guy stop being a dickhead. Basically, was the gist. And so we had like I had this full 3D X-ray of the guy's ribs and like a heart and how pure or like festy it was. And like it had a thing that came across him and then it showed on a big projector. And like had all this stuff, had them in heaven at the start and had them fall out of heaven. And then like had them falling through the crowd. And then they like jumped off a thing on the stage behind the screen and came out below the screen and like fell onto the stage and shit. So it was like fully integrated arts thing.
That's sweet.
But I had this one scene where like everyone was after this kid because he just pissed off all these girls and their boyfriends or whatever. And so he had like a stampede of people and I had everyone in the house. So 1/5 of the school. So it was like, I don't know how many people were in the school, but that'd be like 800 to 1,000 people. I got them, all of them, like they were all extras. And I was like, we are all going to chase this kid down that way. And I have like all of the media kids. I just like harnessed the entire thing. I had all these cameras like on rooftops and around the place and like around corners and just capturing this stampede. And I was like, on 3, we're chasing them. And so, yeah, and the teachers were all getting involved. They were having a great time. Had like, little first and second ADs out of the teachers running around. Everyone wants to be involved in this shit. So, and then someone gave me a megaphone. So I'm just like, let's go. I'm like 16 or 17 at this point. And so then you get the entire, and then you feel the weight of everyone running after someone. And when everyone else is like clambering to capture that, it was just the best feeling.
Wow. That's almost, you were talking about your first experience of filming last week. That sounds like a really good little like origin story. Almost.
Have you got the footage of that?
Mate, that was just high school. I probably would be kicking around somewhere. I was doing shit. I found on this little laptop stuff that I'd done when I was like 11. I was making little films with like 3, 4, 5 friends. Yeah. We were doing a lot of like jumping off trampolines and shit to get the tail end of jumps. And
done that. I've done that where you're just cutting off like as if they're kind of landing, like superhero landing, but then there's no trampoline there or something dumb.
I did this one where my mate and I were like double bouncing each other. I think I just called it double bounce, and then he double bounces me, and I go up, and I just don't come down again. And then like he's looking past me, like wondering where I am, and he like jumps off the trampoline, walks away, and then I fall. But I'm actually like we had a pergola out the back, and Dad rigged it up with this other bit, and so I like actually leaped up and grabbed onto it and then just held onto it.
No way!
That was my legs around it, so I was just staying there as long as I wanted. I'd always fall down.
Natural effects. I was about to say, how did you cut in?
No, I didn't need to.
That's impressive.
Dude, this reminds me of one Christmas school holidays. I think I was 14, 15, and I saw the film The Outsiders for the first time.
Yeah, right.
How fucking good is it?
I love it.
Outsiders.
I love it. And I didn't force them, but I convinced all of my cousins who are all around my kind of age to fucking make our own version of The Outsiders.
Oh, yes. Love it.
And so we had like a VHS fucking thing. This is the 80s.
Yeah.
We'd press play and they'd say a few lines, press pause, we'd fucking type it on a fucking typewriter.
Yeah.
Wow.
I still have the script. Like, we typed out the entire fucking script of The Outsiders. And we started filming it on a huge fucking clunky VHS. Like, it has a big fucking VHS tape in it.
Yeah, I started with
tapes. We're just trying to edit, like, by pausing and then filming the next bit.
We were actually...
camera.
So, my media teacher, who later on, he left the same year I graduated, Chad Peacock, he'll be an old mate of the week at some point. He's an absolute legend of a bloke. He left the same year I graduated, and we ended up sort of freelancing together, and we've bounced each other heaps with just random jobs. All sorts of stuff. He was at the Perth screening, Mace. I don't know if you saw him there. Like, got dude with a cap. Steve's mate, Steve Brown mate.
That's right.
Anyway, one of the first assignments he got us to, he was also my homeroom teacher as well. So definitely had this mentor from like 13 or 14 up. And the first media assignments he gave us was doing exactly what you're saying. You weren't allowed to edit in in a computer. You had to edit in the cut. The bitch of that was that the cameras didn't start right when you pressed the thing. It like waited a second or two. So I cleaned up a few things in the in the edit, but I loved it. And the other one was like 16 mil. So he made a film with Steve Brown, which may have been his acting debut as a young man who wants to buy a donut, but he doesn't have the money. So he busks on the side of the road doing stupid dances and shit. And it had this really innovative, like they were like cutting as the cars were going past. So you kind of have this effect of like a car's sort of almost past and then sort of punch in a bit, you know, and it's sort of that Edgar Wright sort of kind of thing. And that was his natural cut points. He just cut whenever a car went in front of him. And it was a fucking great little thing. And then he ends up getting the money, go back for the donut and the shop's closed. It's great. Anyway, I was saying that when I was like...
we had like a ghetto blaster playing songs from the fucking soundtrack as we were trying to act it out. Like
I love it.
Gloria,
I love it.
you know, by Van Morrison's band at the start.
I think there's something to be said for like going through the filmmaking process, which I feel like I very much did from very young. Going through the filmmaking process in the order of the history of film. Oh my God.
Mason's hungry.
I don't know why these lights are entertaining me so much. I've never done this before, so
it's so much fun. I love it.
In the order of history.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I'll finish off that thought. Then you must eat, Mason. I will let you go at some point. Conscious they haven't had dinner and now eating microphones.
Remember the scene where Cherry Valance throws the Coke in Matt Dillon's face? In the drive-in?
No, I saw it
in the first act. That's as far as we got because when the drink would get thrown in my face or whoever it was, like everyone just burst into laughter. Like, we couldn't get past it.
That's so funny.
We never finished it.
Wow.
Yeah. I love the idea of like making movies in the order of how they were sort of made. So if you start with how they approach movies, you would necessarily face the same restrictions, and then when you move on to the next one, you're like, oh, you could actually appreciate the development. You can appreciate that part of the tool, of the skill set. So like the ability to use special effects and the world that opens up from having made things without that ability to do so.
Yeah,
you really appreciate it. Incorporating sound, so starting making things without sound and then incorporating sound, you know, just really not taking for granted what that actually brings to the filmmaking process. Color, starting black and white. So like, start with a black and white film without sound that you have to put a score to later, and then introduce sound and introduce color, you know, introduce the different editing techniques, sort of Buster Keaton, you know, Charlie Chaplin style compositing on actual glass within the frame, so doing like practical effects, forced perspective kind of stuff, and then opening up to, you know, more fast cutting and using the edit to tell a story and the kind of bring the sound in, bring special effects in.
Rear projection in the 80s?
Yeah, well, earlier 20s, 30s, 40s.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that was... Yeah, I love what everyone's talking about LED screens being new, and it's like, well, it's just self-projection, really. The innovation is the live camera tracking. That's the big leap forward, is getting the parallax into it. But you can also, like, poor man do that, you know, like, what ended up, because the latency is still a bitch, so if you're trying to do anything handheld, it still doesn't line up completely and ends up still being a manual jobby. But you can get away with, like, so the shots in OldMate, for example, I just wanted to minimize, like, we R&D'd it, and it just was like, it still chews up more time than I wanted to on set using it, and it's still a bit of a shit show for everyone trying to do it. So what we ended up doing was I got the footage plate of the background, so I shot an actual background, and what I love about that is it's the OldMate philosophy of, this is on Sophia's balcony scenes, so sweeping landscape in the distance, lights in the distance. What I loved about it is in the OldMate philosophy, it is real, it is organic, it is actual cars doing actual random car things, because it's not completely randomized, it's not artificial, it's just people going about their lives, and there's something that you can't lie about that. You know, if it's fake, you can just sort of tell it's either too random or too pattern. This is like true representation of actually what it was, but then what I did was I cut it up into layers. So I had the trees in the foreground as one layer, I had the mid-ground as a separate layer, I just cut off at a certain level of houses, and then I had the distant ones, then I had the sky, and I put a moon in the sky, which you can never capture with a camera well.
No.
But now what I did was I comped it in, and then in the actual background that we did capture with the camera, there was a nice looking moon in there. And anyway, I split up those layers, put them in 3D space, so they're 2D cards, but in 3D space, and then I did manual dolly left, dolly right, and I labeled all the video files we ended up not even needing to go into the video files. We just played it live out of my compositing software. I just previewed it on full screen and then moved that screen and treated the LED volume, the curved LED screens, and 2 side ones, treated them as extra monitors, just fucking big ones and bendy ones. Wow. Like curved one. And then, we just previewed it, and I just made up movement on the fly and just like pushing in, pulling out. Didn't want to add depth of field, tile up the depth of field, and let it cache for a second. And then, and then we just matched the movement with the camera, and ended up being a far more smooth workflow than fucking around with like trying to jam a sense of live responsiveness into it.
I feel so jealous that you guys have seen this.
What's that?
Yeah, well, Mason hasn't really seen that aspect of it.
I haven't seen the 10 minutes of OldMate.
Soon, next week, or the week after, actually. A fortnight.
Can you give me like a link and a password and I'll watch it, pre-watch it?
No.
Bastard.
I offered everyone that back.
Did you?
Yeah, I offered all you guys that back pre-Chrissy. And then...
You did?
Yeah, I sent an email out to everyone. I sent an email out to everyone, and I was like, we can either do it like that, and enough people came back and went, nah, let's do it as a premiere properly. No,
oh my God. I didn't see that.
Yeah, I sent a blast out to everyone, and I asked when everyone was available so I could book a time. This was in November or December.
So virtually all watch it together?
No, not virtually watch it together, but send a link and a password and have...
Oh, wow. What the fuck?
Yeah, and literally 2 people got back to me telling me when they were available for this is why it took so long, because I'm fucking trying to wrangle everyone.
Well,
we had this finished in December, man. It was 4 months ago.
I give a blatant yes to that.
Too late.
I'll have a fucking link.
Too late. I've just booked the fucking screening now.
Man, I don't like going into screenings blind.
So wait a second. I keep forgetting you haven't seen anything.
No, except for the little flashes that I've seen in this.
This is a pickup of conversation for next week for sure, because I could ask so many different things at this point.
We're going to miss... Unfortunately, we're going to miss... a pod. I mean, I've already missed one just because I didn't have the time to edit it already. But we will miss a week of podcast on the 19th because it is a Wednesday, and we will be there. But the next one that we do, dare I say, the Thursday, if people are around, Mason, if you watch it again on the Wednesday night or something like that, we would have all seen it fresh in our minds and also had people around us. So that could be a very interesting next one. Would be when we all talk about it off the back of having just seen it.
That's crazy. For me, I don't know. This is part of what we said last week with Jordan, that you guys relinquish this part of it. And I forget that you haven't even seen it. That's correct. I mean, I've seen it so much.
Yeah, you've only seen it 2,000 times.
Did it feel like anything else that you've seen, Mason?
It was definitely unique. I don't think so.
Yeah.
It had flavors and stuff that Mitch and I have spoken about in in sections of other stuff, but as a whole, it had I'm not going to give too much away. I think this is why I like this. I like this 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 thing that I have now. That
you have the power over him.
This power here, I want to sit in it.
Because you also, sorry, go on.
Oh, what were you going to say? That's it.
I was going to say you didn't even see all the takes. So Dean's coming from the perspective of seeing, knowing what all of his takes felt like, but also having forgotten them because you only experienced them, firsthand, not actually seeing your face.
Weird.
Not only so, I have this perspective of I know what all of it looked like, but then what I've boiled it down to. Mason, you've had the essence of now out of my brain how I've absorbed what John and Dean and Kat have done, and Jordan.
That said, as far as me knowing what I did, when I'm in the scene, man, I fucking can't remember, to be honest.
Yeah.
Straight afterwards, I don't remember what happened.
True, but you have the rough idea of how John and Leaky did. The different kind of you know what I mean. But you also have a perspective that Mason doesn't have. I guess is what I'm saying. Everyone's got bitsy perspectives of it, and it is kind of lonely having so many relationships with so many people and having different lingo and different understandings of different insights, but no one having the same too.
I mean that's life, isn't it?
Yeah, well that's true. But it's I guess it feels like there is a like an omniscient kind of aspect to it. So I'm far from any director having a god complex, which I think all of them can fuck off and not have one of those. I definitely don't, I don't consider it a godlike thing, but I do feel like it's one of the very few, sort of like a CEO or something, is a very lonely where you're the only person that has the whole picture, ever. No one ever. Even the finished movie is just such a slim snapshot. It's like the slimmest of anything, component of what went into it.
It's a director's medium, isn't it?
Totally, yeah. And I think maybe I'm not the best person to comment because I'm maybe too close to it, but a Mason, in terms of what other things it feels like, I'd like if it was maybe familiar to people in that it feels a little bit like a Tarantino or a Guy Ritchie or a Edgar Wright or a Rodriguez or a Taika Waititi, in that it has a reverent, vibrant kind of bit of a voice, but it's none of them.
Yeah, I was trying to find the best. You were going to be the best one to explain that a little bit more with that kind of thing.
The two hands?
Yeah, there's a lot of two hands in there, but even that, it's like, again, all of these ones, I use them as examples, and I use ones that more people would know, but all of them, I watch all of their stuff, and I go like, oh, if only that was just a little bit different.
Yeah.
And that's like, this is what I want those things to be. It's like, they're all good. If only they were just like I like it a little bit more.
That's exciting, man.
I think we should ask next time when we have maybe all of us as well. And it's simply the perspective of, I think it's a question that doesn't get asked enough. And it comes from the perspective of, and it perfectly will follow that the podcast that follows, is simply the first impressions of something. Of a finished product from everyone's point of view. So, like, for instance, for me and for you, Dean, is completely different because, but versus you as well, Mitch. Like, Dean, you don't see it till the premiere, whereas I see it in its like vulnerable states and development. And Mitch, you've seen it from before it even existed. Like, I want to see, but then you mix in the people in the room around you as other people's eyes. And my question is, how do you all react in those moments? Because I have annoying situations with premieres a lot. And that's like, it was great with OldMate because we had the chance to kind of play it back through Ian set up prior and go through and test it. But I've had situations where either something wasn't considered or the sound just was not put out properly. The screen looks great, visuals look great.
Sound's got to sound good.
The sound just was sounding so shit, and I'm sitting there just like,
no, it's got to sound good.
I know what it was. The difference, my question, I guess, to how you answer it, Dean, is all the different takes you've done, and then sort of how that gets sort of put down or funneled down into the end product. Your view of it in your first viewing is very different to how I would do it.
Sure, yeah.
And that's, I think, the question I want to ask after the screening to you two, and how that first hit you, and the beauty of also in this weird situation that we're in, that we're still in pre-production. And
stop reminding me.
We can like literally be like, because Mitch and I have spoken about this. We have spoken about how, what would we do better when it comes to the actual thing. What things would we actually keep, and what things were certain things that were kind of put together, not necessarily for that, but because it was the nature of the film that it was a short version of this long thing. It wasn't the full version of it. So that's why I'm kind of curious to see your answer to that, your first impressions. And we could probably start our podcast with that next time, is essentially like your first impressions, but also, Mitch, your first impressions of what you felt. Because like you and I have been watching this.
Can we, Mason, Thursday the 20th of April, are you busy?
I could potentially do that. Let me have a look at that day.
If we could potentially like call this a slightly more important thing and lock it in.
What was it again,
Dean,
sorry?
Thursday the 20th at 8 p.m, 6 p.m. Western Standard Time.
I will get back to you as I am doing
because Dean, if you're around on the Thursday night as well, Wednesday, the day before, would have been the screening. So, and then Mason, you can run that podcast and be the question master, and you can ask all the juicy questions. And Dean and John.
We get to Thursday, and Dean's just so fucking hammered drunk, and he's full of drugs, just like, this sucked!
For me to give a proper answer, after the screening night, I need that link to watch it like 10 times to start having proper perspective of it.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. Yeah, I'll send it to you.
Just the first time I was like watching me going, do I fucking like what I did there? Like, do I...
That's part of my question.
I would love if the first time wasn't technical. I would love if the first time was just OldMate, and then second time was Dean. Just take in the whole
experience. It's difficult, man. When you're an actor...
I know, I understand. And that's why I'm saying it specifically, because I understand from the other point of view, like Mason, the first time you watch it on the big screen, you want to be seeing how it sounds, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's just
I want to see how they react, because I know what it is.
Yeah.
The opposite to this is like essentially your situation, Dean, where it's kind of like, you don't... The nature of our roles in the process of filmmaking means that you have a completely different experience to me at the premiere. Versus Mitch, you were there for both. But you don't have any of the so-called necessary... You might have doubts, but we're along for the ride in post-production going through that.
My big version of what that is for Dean is...
First cut.
Like both of you have said when you're playing live that the audience is sort of the instrument. This is now finally... takes me a lot more than just rehearsal and rocking up with the instruments and the amps. It's putting together the entire fucking thing and working with everyone and getting it to the finished state to finally put out a thing that hopefully has a very charged, targeted, now I can show an audience and play the instrument and see what they reckon. So it's like, you don't have an audience before then. So it's really seeing what the audience sees at that point.
Yeah.
I would love to see
huge.
Even that breakdown from you, Dean. I'd love to, just as like an idea of it. I'd like to see how your mind progresses through the first viewing onto the second, onto the 10th, as you've mentioned. And what it is that hit you, because I guess Mitch and I talked about this a lot in the post of making that, is, what is hitting us. A few things were changed towards the end in drastic things, which, with ADR and things like that, that added more. And I'm curious to see what your first impression, what you take away from that as the sort of, obviously the actor, but the first viewing, and then what a few more do for you. Just to, I don't know, I would like to see you explain that, because it's something I don't get to see. I guess I'm in a very, like I say, I see rough cut, and I, just like Mitch, can already see the end when I look at a rough cut. I can envision the end. Yeah. But it is the process plus the premiere, the whole thing, to get the thing, like what you said, Mitch, the whole making of it. But for you, Dean, it's like you shut off at this one point, and then you come back at the end. Like, I don't know. We live different experiences, and I'd like to see that.
I wonder if... I don't know if this is going to be too contrived. I wonder if it'd be worth... I guess it's reliant on internet speeds more than
live streaming our reactions as we watch it.
Or potentially just Mason being on, because we start the screening at 8 p.m. on Wednesday, which is when this starts every Wednesday. So it would actually be almost easier for you, Mason, to not have to fuck around with the Thursday, and you could sort of be there. We could stream, so we're recording it, and then for 5 minutes, each of us can pop over to the laptop and chat to you, Mason, and have the earbuds in, having literally just watched it. And then if we still have the screen set up, and depending on how many people are there and how long it goes for,
literally be a phone, kind of.
We could even just run it again.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
That's an interesting... I don't know if that would detract from the live environment, though. Like, if we got a bunch of people there, we might want to just mingle with them, is my only...
That might be a difficult one.
Maybe we do this as a separate thing. So maybe we'll leave Wednesday alone, but maybe the next Wednesday, maybe Dean and John and I can be in the same room together with a screen watching it, and Mason, you can log in.
Yeah.
We can have the stream from a couple of computers with us live, and then we can have the screen. Okay, run it, and then pause it, and then chat, and then run it and pause it.
Because
and chat.
just like Mitch, I'm sure it's like even when you just said it before, Dean, I like just got jittery. I was like, oh, like you like it's exciting, like from the perspective of like knowing the end product and being able to then show you, you know, that kind of thing. Like that must, especially for Mitch, how exciting that is. It's also it's like that's fucking. It's just very cool. It's just cool to me that's like a premiere to me is like I've already judged it.
yeah.
In
Many,
my mind,
many
I've
times.
already gone through what you said. Do I like this? Do I hate this? Should I be looking at it differently? What have I missed? I like this. This is better.
There's also a
This
collaborative
is
aspect where you might like something, but then I go, no, and then we discuss it, and then we come to an outcome. Whereas with your performances, Dean, I just choose. Like you don't know after what you've done them. Like
that to me, that's the part
them.
that I'm like. That's what I want to know from you, Dean. What is that like when you look at how you've been chosen to look versus what you
You'll come on the
had?
podcast and be like, "Fuck you, Mitch. Fuck you."
Yeah, I guess I would have follow-up questions that kind of lead to times in your past where you've actually seen that and been like,
yeah. Have you been betrayed by a director?
Betrayed.
I mean, I completely
Like
trust
when you
your
put trust in a
judgment,
director.
man, like,
Oh, cheers.
but
James.
it's not like I'm
the
going to
actor,
be like,
the
oh, fuck, I'm
actors.
scared. Like,
Yeah, I know. The actor's role. There's so much trust required from actors.
yeah, absolutely.
You're putting how you're represented in the hands of other people.
yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's so much like there's such a respect factor that every other creative needs to have to actors.
What were you
for
asking
the
me?
amount of
Have I
trust they
ever
put in?
felt betrayed?
Sorry, I interrupted. Yeah. Well, yeah. Have you ever like given your trust to a director who has then you have felt reflected you, not in the best light that you had sort of set up in that with that trust?
Or is that kind of like just not actually what ends up happening in the end, Dean? Is it more just like you get to see the complete picture and it kind of fills in all the gaps? Like, I'm curious. That's a great question, Mitch, because it like, you know, it's just a different side of the collaboration.
I don't recall being disappointed or thrown under the bus as far as choice of takes and things like that.
Okay.
But
What then did throw you under the bus?
what's that?
What then did throw you under the bus?
I've only felt thrown
From
under the bus through the bigger picture, maybe like when I have done smaller roles where the editor has decided that this section of the storyline is not conducive to the entire story needing it, and then something I feel like was good work is fucking tossed aside in the edit and not even used.
It's rough.
And so you're like, what the fuck? That was like...
I think the benefit of, in this scenario, me being a bit more hands-on in post, I've always fucked, because I mean, I've been in positions with visual effects, with, you know, other work, with...
I mean, being the lead actor, my shit can't be cut. Like, so...
Yeah, you'll be in the movie. Yeah. We'll have a very short movie if we cut you down. very short
I heard
movie.
that happened with The Thin Red Line. Do you know that film?
Oh, really? What a whole actor.
Who's the dude that's the Academy Award winner from the film The Piano, the Italian guy?
Adrian Brody.
You know how there's multiple interweaving stories, and so there's a whole bunch of leads in that film? He was one of those leads.
Oh, there you
But
go.
he's cut down to a fucking featured extra. He barely speaks.
Yeah, well, Terrence Malick,
And I heard he didn't...
his beautiful.
It is beautiful,
I love
yeah.
his movies.
But I don't
He
know.
makes some very unpopular decisions, though. Like, definitely not conventional
Yeah.
decisions.
I mean, I don't know if this is true or not, but I heard that Adrian wasn't aware of how much of his role was cut until he'd been in the cinema watching it.
Oh, no.
I guess that's what hurts me the most is like the idea of like, you know, you've let go of your stuff after you've shot production. And then when you're viewing it back, I guess that would be the worst part is when a lot of yourself is cut. I've heard like, that's one of my favorite things in Entourage, when Johnny Drama is like a full-on extra and then they just cut that whole scene out. and he just gets so pissed off. Not even featuring in the film that he's been telling everyone.
Yeah.
Typical. But that's like, I'm very interested in that to see how you feel after that, because like,
I mean,
it plays a lot into how I feel as well, because a lot of it's kind of like we can now have a real, I wouldn't say a real discussion, but it's like you can start to see the lens that I've looked at, I guess, that I've seen your lens. Or at least Mitch has actually even showed me a lot of the alternative takes as well when the rough cuts were being put together. And when
that
a
is
lot
true.
of
You
that
have
was
seen
being-
some.
And
Yeah.
I have seen a lot of how that went down. And I've seen the trickle effect of how that's led to what it is a result. My sort of question, I guess, at the end is like, it's not really a question. It's really just your observation. I guess I just want to know how you respond to that emotionally, like mentally, because that would sound like a lot of weight on my shoulders, not, I guess, having any control at what would be this. I wouldn't say it's the 2/3 part of the whole thing, you know, pre-production, production, and post. But, you know, just there's a whole block where you're just not there. And I'm curious. I'm assuming Mitch, you know, and I'm assuming some people in bigger productions, bigger films, get to see a lot more than in advance. You know, I'm talking about like when we're talking about, you know, maybe multi-million-dollar films, or maybe it is just hush hush from the get-go. Like, imagine if you were in Star Wars.
Yeah, it's different on big. It's not, you don't see more on bigger films, you see less, because the machine
That's
is much
terrifying
bigger.
to me.
Yeah.
Imagine being on a Star Wars film, and then when the backlash of the internet decides to ridicule the IP across the timeline of that. And then, so yeah, we could talk about whether or not those films were a failure or not. I'm purely looking into what it would be like to be that, you know, that first, you know, addition to the new version of the IP, and then the internet decides to come in and just rip it apart. Now, don't get me wrong, that some people would add positives as well, but to then sit there as the actor and kind of see that versus, I guess, the control that I have. I guess maybe I think I like to work with something. I actually like the idea that something comes first, and then I go, this is what I then add.
You kind of, you work with a start to end, how you've envisioned it. They don't sort of take what you've done and then chop it the fuck up. Like, well, I do a little bit with music. But like,
it's still
with visual effects, you know, it's very similar to acting, where I give a chunk, and then, so for example, I went for a film that I did some effects with. There was one particular sequence where someone gets hit by a truck, and I did multiple angles of him getting hit by this truck. Now, for the film, I kind of agree with the decision that they took, which was for the sake of the impact of not seeing it coming and then having this person just get taken by the truck. They really stitched out a lot of the effect of him actually being hit by the truck. So to the point where you could almost have got away with cutting it well, but there was enough finesse. But so I didn't know that. I just gave him 2 shots where the shots themselves were frame by frame, making it photorealistic that he gets absolutely mauled the fuck up by this truck. And it was at night, and the headlights were on, so he gets like enveloped by the glow, which was a huge part of the stitch, because like it was the take of him out the car with a gun with them. Then there was the clean plate of the truck hit, like just going really close to the car and just going past, and stitching those together. A huge part of, you know, cutting him out every frame, but also him getting enveloped by the light of the truck realistically as it absorbs him and he goes into the thing, but you know, in front of which the light, but then behind the glow of it. And so I did an enormous amount of work, and it looked great of this truck. But then I go to the award ceremony. I'm up for some big award. I'm a finalist up against these 2 other massive films. I fly down to Melbourne to go to the award ceremony, and they play the snippets. And usually visual effects, you can just go like, well, they can do what they want. I got paid, whatever. But on this occasion, it was the award, so my name was there. So now it's representing me. And you see this first one, and it's fucking CGI robots and shit having a massive war. And I'm like, that's fucking sick. And then another thing, and then mine comes on. And then you just have these 2 shots cut together, which you can barely see any visual effect happen.
Yeah.
And then you're kind of like,
fuck.
Yeah, it is a little, oh, that would like, and see, here's the thing, the crowd might not think that, or how the people look at it, but it's how
they definitely
They probably, but there is that too. But it's like, it's just like that's what I'm curious in. your
Yeah.
reaction, and you and John and
There's
Yeah, dude,
and
put these
there's
questions
one
together.
there's one time I recall
do.
where I played a small role, and the guy was kind of like a bit of a red herring kind of antagonist to the lead female. But he had 3 scenes in the film where there was some explanation for why that sort of, explained his bad behavior. Like there was like a past that was like alluded to why he's this way, and like why he's a bit of a cunt to this woman in this scene. And then I find out from the director. The only reason I said the only way I'll do this is if this guy's not a 2-dimensional dickhead that treats a woman like shit. Like there has to be context to why he's like that. And so there's 3 scenes. I'm like, yeah, that, and I say yes based on that. And then the film gets made, and I find out from the director that the 2 scenes that give some context to his behavior are gone from the edit. And there's just that one scene where he's a fucking pig. And I'm like, fuck this. Like, I don't mind playing a pig, but the only reason I signed on for this film is because there was some context to his behavior. And I'm like,
So that's exactly what I was asking about. Exactly the betrayal aspect. Like that's like to the letter exactly, I suppose, the answer to that question. It's like, yeah, you trusted them. There was the whole, like, you had a certain character and then they stitched you up. That's literally the definition of being stitched up.
Yeah,
Like,
stitched. Yeah, I think that's what I'm. Yeah, I want to kind of see you ridicule.
and I'm not 100% saying it is a betrayal of trust. Like, I think you have to be careful because sometimes an editor will say, for the sake of the bigger picture of the film, these scenes don't fucking matter and they don't propel the story forward. And so you screw it.
yeah, I mean, I like that you don't
By someone else.
take that personally.
But I guess that's important that you don't take it personally, because that is the balance, I guess, that I'm curious about, is how, when you first see it, do you see you? And then how, after you've seen it 10 times, do you see the story? Or I guess that's what I... And like I said, I'll save these questions for then, because I want to get John involved. And if Jordan comes along as well, anybody else that kind of...
I mean,
Jordan's in a similar boat. You never want the DP in the room when you're editing because they're too precious.
Despite what I just said, a character is a character. I don't see it as me, regardless of whether they're favourable person or not.
See, that's very interesting you say that, because in the music side of it, I am very much see me.
You deliver the final version.
Yeah, I see my emotions in that very moment. When the music was created, I actually hear like how I felt, and so when someone like it's funny how you say it, Mitch, before, but like it's usually I'm usually there till the end, and most films I've done are true to the. But take one example, was I did something for the Heath Ledger at the Heath Ledger Theatre, and the film ended up winning Best Documentary for that night. Yeah, nice. That doesn't mean I enjoyed it. Every other film was so loud, and because it was like Curtin Uni's master's degree students, and they I was the only composer they hired. I had actually come in and done proper score with Harker for Life. Mitch, you were there.
Yeah, that was great.
You were there for the actual recording of it. Well, imagine that. Just not loud enough.
Yeah, it's never loud enough.
Versus another film which was a comedy of people throwing shit at each other in a kitchen, and like it was just dumb with stock music, but it was so loud, and I was and
the problem there is because theirs was so loud, the overall master volume of the entire track, all of it would have been brought down together, which means that anything out of any sort of nuance just gets turned down to shit. And one other thing, and we were a little bit guilty of this in our screening in Perth, Mason, is, and I forgot it, I should have fucking known, but this is, doing the dance theatre. Human beings in a theatre, more bodies absorb more sound. And so when you're sitting at the back of an empty theatre and sitting at the back of a packed theatre, the packed theatre is almost half the volume when you're sitting at the back, because so many human beings have absorbed so much of the sound.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Because I remember when we were getting the level right, and usually if you've
got the level right for the empty cinema, we told them to turn it down slightly, and then we watched it again, and it was quiet.
Yeah, and we were literally. Whereas I had that same thing in the same cinema with one of Chad's films, and I was like, ooh, a little bit too loud.
And also,
And
it's never quite good when it's only coming from the front. You want it immersive, and then you can have it at the right level, and then everyone's getting
at the same volume.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So let's try this. We'll try this for the Wednesday or the Thursday, or even if you wanted a few more days, Dean.
Well, the problem is we lose the weekend. He starts to gig on the weekends. So if we can lock in that Thursday, I think, let's leave the Wednesday alone just because I might invite an investor or two and they'd love meeting you, Dean. So let's lock in the Thursday and then do another screening sesh where we can all be around watching it together and chatting about it.
Because I would love for you guys to kind of pick it apart a little bit more and kind of look at like some of the, I don't know, just Mitch and I fucking around in post, really. Just some of
Every
the
time
dumb,
I hear that swerving car, it's such an inside joke. I'm not going to tell you where it is, but there's this little car swerve. It's just the perfect moment. Yeah, like...
You reference a lot of hot fuzz, Dean, like a lot of like quick paced cuts, but also sound design. Like background, there's always something filling up the silence, even if it's like almost close to silence.
And another one that does this as well is, ironically, Fight Club. They both have a pace, there's a rhythm, and then the dialogue is hitting to the rhythm, the music is hitting to the rhythm, and if there's a beat that doesn't have a rhythm, they'll fill it with something. So it'll be like quip line, quip line, quip line, and then someone has an idea, and the camera pushes in, and in the background, someone pulls a cash register. So it's just cha-ching, and just having those little accent sounds that are like diegetic, they're like in the story.
Wow, that's cool.
But register is just an extra little accent punch.
That's cool.
And so we've got little shit like that peppered.
Just a little, and they just add to the overall like humor and the second viewing and the subconscious listening and the.
I love it so much.
It's just, I think that was a lot of the fun we had in the end. Is like
so much fun.
Just all that extra shit, and even just like even Mitch, you and I doing like the voiceover and stuff like that for I won't go any further into that, but how like that's what I meant by like, obviously that character hasn't been necessarily cast, and it was just sort of an illusion from Mr. Malok's perspective. But the character's enough. You get enough by how it's cut. It's just funny that it's me.
We were talking, we ended up including it and then taking it out again, but Dean, we were talking about each character being represented by a dog, and which dog everyone would be. Kit is definitely a dinky.
So like the example
and having like John and Aliki when they're having a little bit of banter about the gun or whatever, just having like two dogs in the background just yapping, like having a domestic
in the silence. And then Sophia had this gorgeous like at home dog.
It was a little bit too distracting in the end, but I liked it.
Very subtly, but it was more so because it's when we were trying stuff out. And we only end up letting down to the one in the end. That's how much of the culling process led to it. But I guess this is the side of it now that we're talking about that you see, and then once you've seen it, that's kind of the dissection I kind of like. I'm curious about is what stood out to you in the visuals. What stood out in the music? What stood out in the specifically things maybe direct from script versus how you may have phrased them. What stood out in the clothing and the attire and the use of pretty much every department really, because Mitch and I have already gone through that kind of criticism, like not criticism, but like analysis leading to a summary. I'd be curious as to.
I have trouble taking every department in the first time. To be honest.
Oh, of course you do, and that's why I kind of want to see your first. Versus a few podcasts down the line where you've probably watched it a few more times and hate it so much that you've left the project. No, I'm joking. Like that, you've kind of come to this point of get sort of watching it at least 1% of how much Mitch and I have watched it. And started to really get the secondary layers and the other things, which that's why I said before I'm so excited about seeing that, I guess, in post again, because we've already discussed all what we see, then the sub-themes, and then the background sounds that add even more subtlety in the music and that tie to each person's character and theme, and the skeleton behind that and how that ties together with the humor. And I don't know. I never get the chance to even ever have this conversation. It's usually go to the cinema, watch it, and then everyone kind of looks at themselves on the way out for the first time, and it's kind of like, that was sick, but then you never get to really debrief. I guess. Sometimes I've had you go to parties afterwards, and I'll never forget one screening. I'll not mention the feature that we're on, but me and the soundy Tam, who I spoke to you about, we got quite close during the production of like working back and forth with each other, and he was doing a lot of the sound design and the sound along with a few others, and then kind of mixed it all in, and then something I guess went. It was like, I think his first big feature that he was mixing, but it was under the guidance of a production company, and I was working for them too, and it was kind of like, I wouldn't say anything really went wrong in the cinema, but like he definitely felt it first, because he came up to me afterwards and was like, I don't know why it sounded like this. I felt like the music was relatively okay level-wise, but generally the same thing we just spoke about before, about levels being just a little bit, and this was a big cinema too, like much bigger than the back lot that we were at, and it had a whole different approach to it, and so we had a debrief afterwards, and it didn't change anything. It was just like how could we have improved, or how could we have or how, what will we improve, and then Chad and I did that as well with one. We actually did a screening, listened, made changes, and that kind of thing as well. So that's kind of the end of that for me.
Tam would be a great person to have on the yarns, because he and I had a good yarn about doing the music first, because he said he did sound design. He quoted roughly 5 or 6 weeks, 4 or 5 weeks for the feature. And I was like, look, realistically, bro, like it's gonna be tight, do we need to tighten that in, and he was talking about how he layers in all this sound design subtly, and then the music gets done, and then he lays it in, and then the music drowns out a lot of the background subtle sounds that he did. Whereas if he knew the music was going to be that loud up front, he would have prioritized less sounds in that scene.
Yeah,
which is one of the beauties of you doing the music first and me editing with the music and knowing where I wanted in the first instance, where we can kind of go, okay, cool. So these scenes, just like deprioritize complexity.
Yeah, absolutely. That's beautiful. The efficiency of the process, because that's the biggest problem I have. Is the cut goes straight to sound design, and
does the whole fucking thing.
And me. And then, so we're doing it simultaneously. And when it comes to, like, I just did sound recently for a film, music for a project, but the sound guy hasn't even finished. And like, he was waiting for me to be finished. With the luxury of the nature of how the project worked out, that he could do it that way. But it does change it. And he actually did say it to me, Mitch. And once you do this screening, if you send a link out to John and Dean, please include Tam into that. He was really intrigued.
Oh, totally. Oh, cool. Yeah.
Opinion, especially from all the sound stuff we've discussed, and how we're going to tackle that in the future from that discussion, and getting other parties to do with the sound mix.
Definitely. In lieu of so Jordan, for example, did a stellar job shooting it and camera operating for that first shoot. He's not a camera operator. And you can't, there's a cognitive load to doing more than one responsibility. Yeah. And it even the best in the world, I mean, they are the best in the world because they prioritize what they're doing. I think in the same vein as on the feature, Jordan is just going to DP, and we're going to get an operator whose shtick is their job is operating. They are essentially an actor. We just don't see their face. They are the audience's eyes. They are choosing where the audience looks. I think having a dedicated sound designer will give you a little bit of distance, Mason, to step back a little bit, and then just assess from the pacing, from the composer, from the heart, from the ears and the heart connection point of view. Because having you on tools, I did find you went a little bit technical at times, where I'm like, and we had to revise a few things where, like I did with Jordan, actually camera operating,
Well, that was the nature of attacking. But then the one thing that does help is being able to tie the worlds together. For instance, having the music. That when we did the mix, like being the composer but also the guy mixing it at the level, it's like the control I had there. The sound design is a little bit different, and it is something that and there was other people obviously capturing that with me that helped the process. But having somebody else like him kind of like Tam. That's why I think I want to look at Tam, and I think he's
Yeah.
just got the old mate vibe that I would
Yeah,
love
totally.
to bring into
Which is critical.
post-production.
Yeah.
And I think that, or even just in general, really in production, pre-production, even into one of these Zoom chats, like after he watches it and then being like, "What do you think, you dog?"
Mm-hmm.
You know, and just from the perspective of when we start ironing out things like that's why I thought that podcast would be good to iron that out with you, Dean, and to talk about how that side of it worked, and then we could do a whole one with Jordan where Jordan essentially is breaking down how he reacted to that, and then getting sort of someone from the sound department, the sound world, to have that same look and same deal. I think that could just be another interesting observation for us as the creators going forth in the feature to see some other people's views.
Totally.
Like I said, it's like a mini test screening and then an industry advisories before we've even begun. Like, and I think that's just
while
amazing.
we're doing it. Yeah.
While we're doing it at the beginning, rather than why I think I'm so scared by the idea that some people do test screenings like Batgirl or whatever that was, and then just go, no,
Yeah.
and then throw the talent.
And that's the old mate thing. So, I mean, the horror story big one for me was Ben Young, Perth Boy, Hounds of Love, brilliant film.
Love it, man. Fucking love it.
Yeah, Ben. I sat down with him in Perth, having no idea who he was. He was in the early stages of actually shooting that film, and he decided to accept and sit down with me for coffee. I had no idea who he was. I was like 17. Hounds of Love comes out like a year or two later, and then I'm like, holy shit, he was making that while he took the time out to have a chat with me. I thought he was just another, aspiring filmmaker like the rest of us. Total legend of a bloke.
He is, yeah. He was at one of the premieres I was at recently for one of my films.
Such a down-to-earth dude.
Emma Booth is incredible in that film, isn't she?
So good.
Oh,
and
shit.
Stephen Curry as well. Like the
Yeah,
dynamic
absolutely.
between the two of them is just something else.
I worked with Steve Curry once.
Film with,
No, did ya?
Yeah, just one scene where
Yeah,
we're both
lovely.
detectives, and he was a bit sus, and I was very much on protocol, and I'm like very sus on him. Like, he's a very
Yeah,
nice
right.
dude, Like very grounded.
Yeah, right. There you go.
Very
Well,
good.
the horror story for me was his kind of Netflix, or at the time
Extinction?
Paramount breakout, Extinction. So after Hounds of Love, he did that. Yeah, the whole thing. Studio went,
right.
saw him, then just went, fucking A, he knows what's up. Let's give him a Hollywood film, and did this film. I think Michael Pena was the kind of the A-lister in that one. And yeah, same dealio. Like, got to the end of shooting it, and then they went, we're gonna have to, Paramount went, there's an extra third of this budget. We need to promote this thing enough, and we've shown test audiences, and just on paper it doesn't look like it's worth it, so we're gonna can it. And then Netflix swooped in and picked it up, luckily. But
Yeah.
this idea that's the big horror story for me, I guess, because it's closer to home. He's a Perth guy as well. Made the first film tooth and nail to get it made. Looks great. Gets picked up for a bigger film, and then that film isn't as well received because it's plagued by the studio hands being so tightly involved.
That's
and,
what I said.
Not really being the auteur thing.
That's why I said what I
Yeah.
said before about investors having a say.
Yeah, but I think investors having a say, I still have a say back. Whereas when a studio says something, you don't have a say.
Yeah, it's very different. Yeah.
But no, I'm totally with you on being selective over that. But I guess, so with that horror kind of, I mean, it wasn't even a horror story. Luckily, it still got made. But with that sort of thing in mind, I think the old mate vibe and not having it private while it's being made, having yarns like this, showing people bits and pieces, showing people progress as it's being made, showing mates while I was editing. Like I showed Steve Brown, who is a producer and an artist and a filmmaker. He does a lot of music videos. And also another mate of mine, John, who might be getting involved in the production design capacity. And both of these guys have a lot of experience, and they just both jumped into an edit with the cut version of it, just with the file.
Yeah.
Cut it a little bit, just themselves.
Yeah.
And then sent that cut back to me in the editable format, so I could see the time codes and stretch out what they'd done and fuck with what they'd done and see what they did. And I suppose I didn't actually implement exactly the changes, but I got the gist of why they were making them by the way that they had edited them, because I have a bit of edit experience. And I found that a really beautiful way of working, where I could be like, okay, I can see where you're coming from.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
all right, you felt this bit lagged. I don't agree where you took the time out, but I can see why you went to that part. As others. And that was a really lovely way to work, where, I think it requires a product. It requires a production that people believe in. But I've been really astounded with the support. The closer I get to making more of this, so many people are helping out in so many, in any way. They just, off their own back, they'll go and buy a case of pale ales. They'll go and, just cut it themselves. And you know, when they were kind of cutting it. I mean, my first instinct was, you know, that kind of pride of us like, wait, what, you're fucking my thing and didn't even ask. But like, I stepped back from that after a minute of being butthurt and then just went, that's the most beautiful thing is they're literally going out of their way, talented people to offer, you know, feedback. And yeah, it's been really amazing. Like the other day, you know, had lunch with someone who's getting involved in a big way, and they insisted on chatting me lunch and a coffee. And then at Army's house, and he made me a coffee. Went to chat to Jordan at the studio and talk about gear hire the other day. And he got the Bristow and he's like, yeah, don't worry about paying. And then went to the bar and then talked about the screenings. And they like just put a drink in front of me and was like, no, don't pay for it. And it's just like, man, I just tallied up and I was like, lunch, like 3 coffees and a couple of drinks, all shouted for. While I'm, you know, if someone's not on a mission themselves, they want to help out someone who is. Yeah. You know, we all want to be on a mission. We all want to be helpful. We all want to get involved. And I love that they, you know, I'm so grateful that they wanted to do those things. I prefer to be the one giving. I hate receiving free things, but I always do when I'm on the other side of it. But I think it's lovely that we can get everyone involved and everyone has a part to be involved. Like everyone has a fingerprint to put on OldMate. And I think there's purely of the secrecy factor where someone's like, this is mine, no one hear from it until it's finished. We'll see if it succeeds or not. It's like, no, let's fucking, it's a movie for the people, by the people.
Yeah. I think the beauty of shooting 10 minutes and being able to have all this time in between where all the key creatives can communicate about everything across the board, that's a rare privilege, man. I haven't experienced that before.
No, I
was just about to say, because that's part of essentially saying to you before that the premiere is really the first time you ever see something. You're about to see it for the first time once again in pre-production. Like, you're seeing it. Yeah, it is an end product of an idea we've put together.
Of sorts.
Of sorts. But like, it's unlike it for all of us. It's like the first time all of us get to do that in pre-production, even before that, or pretty much now. It is now. It's like this point of like, you're not, and then that my curiosity is really how that's going to influence you moving forward, because that's kind of like what I've had many discussions with Mitch, that the music is coming into pre-production, that I've taken it out of post and brought it in to this point in time. And that's changed the workflow for all of us for the better and it's make it more exciting for me. I then want to know how that changes it for you. You know? So, but we should leave it there. Jesus Christ, this thing has gone for nearly 2.5 hours.
Done.
Not
very, very well.
But solid chat, gents.
Yeah,
solid chat. Thanks for watching another episode of OldMate Yarns. We're still going. We're going to be missing one at some point due to having a screening. So I apologize if we are belated with these episodes coming out. See you later, boys.
Questions, comment below.
Send us questions. We love the questions. The questions are the lifeblood of keeping us talking.
What are you flashing for? Why is this light flashing again?
This is turning into a Blue Velvet when he's singing do you know Candyman
something about Blue Velvet that's funny? I was going to wear my Blue Velvet jacket.
Fucking look at me, isn't it?
Yeah. Don't look at me. I love that movie. I love that movie. That movie has inspired a lot of... Oh, mate, we're regressing, digressing.
Yes, we are.
We're regressing in some respect. We will see you later. See you soon, Mason. Enjoy dinner.
Bye, everyone.
Goodbye.